yeah. It is time to stream. It is time to have some fun with some lore. Let's dive in. Let's have a good time here. We got a plenty to go through. We got your questions that you guys have already asked. We got questions all over the place. Let's do it. But before we get started, it's important to know that when I am divulging through tons and tons of lore and just snorting the pages of old Warhammer lore books, I like to just get hopped up on sneak energy. Make sure you use creator code Sparty at checkout if you want to help support the channel, because sneak helps support my habit for an addiction to caffeine. Let's get started here with the stream. Let's have some fun. Let's take a look at what we got going. So I have some sneak energy in my hand, but I have some questions that you guys have asked me already on the what's this thing called? The community post, and we will go through those, and then I will take questions from you bros and anything. I mean, it doesn't need to be about Cathay. It can be about literally anything lore related. I don't care. You can ask me life questions too, for all that matter. I don't know why you would. I'm a guy who makes YouTube videos, but happy to answer them. So let us go through these questions here. And the way this is going to be formatted is, I'm going to read these off first. I'm going to say who said the question, and then we're going to jump into the answer and what have you. And I'll probably take little breaks here and there to, like, I don't know, use the restroom, stuff like that. But if you have any questions to ask me, I'll say like, hey, okay, let's open it up to questions from chat. You guys can then ask them. And if you want to ask me a specific question, mention my name. Go at Italian Spartacus. It just is easier to pull my eye rather than reading the other sea of text. It's just kind of easier because it highlights it and it shows it to me. So ask through that when I say, hey, let's take it to chat. But I'm doing well, Cincinnati. How are you? We got Rewinger in the house. We got Regal Giant. We got some new faces up in this piece. We got Ben Bricchio. We got Nirvana Inc. Gaming, a very impatient individual. We got Nick Gallipoli. How you doing, man? Neon Cat, what's up? Chris Pilkington. We got Grease's Goldtooth. We got Big Daddy Sand Pirate. Francis Peltier. Tyler Alvarado just swinging in with a hello. We got Lars. We got Chris Spink. We got Aquazar's here as well. Pele. We got Nick G. We got so many people just laying it on. Glam, did I already say hi to you? Well, Glam's here too. We got Dan Morris, we got Martin, we got Booty Whisperer. Thank God he's here. Thank God Booty Whisperer is here. A Dark Omen with the tip of the hoot. Do I have Dark Elven? What does that mean, Anano? You lost those Miami Nights, baby. Android Poetry slamming me down with a little Trevor something. Remy has to leave for using a 1990s meme. What's up, Spice? How you doing, Draymond? I almost said midnight. I was listening to the midnight last night, which is ironic. Bill, we got Mac, we got everybody. We got everybody here, right? That guy you know, who I mean is the guy that I know. We got Parsley Bill. Parsley Bill sounds like, it's definitely a pirate name. Oh, Parsley Bill. He went overboard. Down to Davy Jones' locker, Peter Tork's locker, and all the monkeys' lockers. What's up, Mr.? Mr. Anonymous is here. That is an old Rocco's Modern Life joke, if you've ever seen that show. What's a Gucci, my gamer? All right, guys, let's get started here. Let's have some fun. So the first question was actually one of the last questions, and let me know if the music is too loud. I'm basically just playing. I have to keep an eye on this too. I'm playing the Warhammer 2 soundtrack. So if it's too loud, let me know. It doesn't seem like it is by looking at the audio, the desktop audio waves. But the first question we're going to hit is one of the last questions that was asked, and I think there's no music. Okay, it's good. Just making sure. So the first question here, and I think it's one that's on a lot of your minds, so I want to hit this first. Here, I'll turn it up just a little bit then. I gotta turn it down on my end. There we go. Okay, so the first question here is from Condi Burger. It says, do you know anything about the information schedule, like next week, unit roster reveal, the week after that, the siege battles or something? If the pre-order race will be ogres, how many and which lords will they have? So that was Condi Burger's question here. Let me actually get a piece of paper and write down all the questions for timestamps later. So that was the first question here, basically asking, you know, do I know of anything coming? And the answer is no. And to be fair, I am also under an NDA. So even if I truly knew, I couldn't tell you guys. But if I knew, since I'm under an NDA, I just wouldn't answer that question. I just wouldn't even bother with it. So I do not know anything about the schedule. I don't know what's coming at all. So when it comes, it unfortunately comes. And when I can cover it, I can cover it. But like I said, if I knew, I just wouldn't say anything. I just wouldn't even address the question. So that's my way of trying to not NDA the NDA by being NDA'd and being pulled into court and getting NDA'd. But like I said, don't know anything because I've not seen anything. Wouldn't blink more. Help me. Creative Assembly is in the house. Moving on to Glam's question. Glam, I see you're right here. So I'm going to hit you right now with your question, my dude. We are at timestamp 1246. He asked, how many children do you think the Emperor and Empress have? How powerful are each of them in your mind, relatively speaking? So, of course, anything I say right now is going to be headcanon, right? It's me making a lot of guesses. And we don't really know how many children the Emperor and Empress have. They haven't divulged that just yet, but they have told us a little bit of information. And actually, a lot of what I'm about to talk about is going to be in the next video coming out on Friday. But if we look to, let's have some fun. Let's go ahead and bring up Wikipedia. Let's go ahead and press display capture. So if we look at this, we have the Chinese mythology behind the four symbols, right? The black tortoise of the north, the azure dragon of the east, the vermilion bird of the south, and the white tiger of the west. And we're going to go down here a little bit further. And this is kind of the breakout of that. And you get the four directions, the four cardinal directions, with the auspicious beasts attached to each one of them. And from that, you get a color association. So we know the black tortoise, the northern direction, is Miao Ying? Miao Ying. Yes. Is it Zhao Ming and Yao Ming? Miao Ming. Nope. Miao Ying. So Miao Ying is north, and she is colored in black clothing with silver and blue armor. So to me, black tortoise, north, winter, black, water. And Wu Jing, remember Wu Jing is a really big important of all this. So I see her as the black tortoise here. Then in the west, we have the iron dragon associated with metal, obviously Wu Jing in the west. And we know that Zhao Ming is in the west. That's from all the news that we've seen so far. And onto that, we also know that the color of his dragon is a whiter color. White tiger association as well. So already I'm seeing a correlation between these two. And in the Games Workshop article, it says that the little lantern crafts are held up with a vermilion warbird in the balloon that produces heat. So that tells me in the south, we'll probably hear something about someone who was red colored and associated with fire. And I bet that's where all of the Kongming lanterns are made. Then we also have, in that same article, it talks about the Jade fleet. Well, the east, or the portion of Cathay that is actually against the water, is in the east, which would be green, which would be wood. So what boats are made of wood. A little tinfoily hat, but at the same time, I think that if we just look at this, we see the possibility of 4 total sons and daughters. And if we're looking at the yellow dragon or Qilin, then that could possibly be the celestial dragon emperor in the center that acts as the central piece to all 4 of the symbols. So I think that that's probably how they're going to go about things. And if you kind of look at this too, the symbols old yin, young yang, old yang, young yang. So we might get something of the sort here too, where the vermilion bird is the second oldest or something of the sort. Because we know that Meow Meow is the oldest sibling. So I'd really be curious to see if they go the full 5, so 4 or 5, or if the celestial dragon emperor represents that 5th portion of the symbols. So I think it's pretty interesting that we get a lot of information, but that's my answer to that little ditty right there. Let me look at the other portion of that question though. What's back? You also said, do you think that eventually we may see a celestial dragon monk grandmaster as a lord or hero, as well as a typical historical, what was it? Hold on. As well as a typical Games Workshop historical ripoff of character down the line, perhaps a Sun Tzu or a Lu Bu hybrid. You know what? I could see that we could possibly even get that now. Like if they release more of the children, they say, oh yeah, the dude to the south who's very fiery and tempestuous is Lu Bu. I could see that happening. Or, I mean, Kong Ming is it convenience name? What's it called? I have to look at the actual name. Is the courtesy name, not convenient name, courtesy name of Zhuge Liang. So this grandmaster strategist, right, of the Warring States period, of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. So we might even get a character that's modeled after him as well, and that could be the one in the East. So it's really hard to say, but I do think that we might eventually get some sort of character glam that is probably modeled after something in Chinese history, just in the same way that we've gotten plenty of other stuff like that. But time will tell, my dude. A lot of you have had a lot of questions so far. Like I said, just hold off on those questions until a little bit later, and then I'll get them all at once. I don't want to have to miss your questions, so give me a little bit of time, and then we'll do a break and answer some chat questions before jumping back to this document and answering some more of these. But Glam, I see you had a follow-up here. There are also 4 Dragon Kings with similar colorations in Journey to the West. Yeah, 100%, man. 100%. You're getting it, Peter. You're doing it. You're playing with us. So next question here is from Anton, and it's a 3-parter. He's got 3 questions. Question number 1. Do you think the Monkey King, if he arrives, may be a combined race with the odd Skaven or Chaos unit depending on his alignment? That's a really cool question. Like, do you think that we might see the Monkey King as a hybrid faction, including like Cathay units and Skaven units, or Cathay units and Chaos units? And I think that's a perfectly legitimate question. And it's hard to answer until we find the true affiliation of the Monkey King. We know the Monkey King is this kind of subtle antagonist to Cathay, right? He slips in, assumes power, galvanizes the rest of the siblings to then fight him. In the older lore, the Monkey King is kind of mischievous, but he's not necessarily Chaos 100% aligned. He does do things with the Skaven, right? He makes a war chief his like chief advisor, and he opens up trade with the Skaven under Empire. But who's to say that they wouldn't write this as something saying like, yeah, and he did all this to kind of show Cathay that this is the dirty underbelly it needs to clean out, or he did this to galvanize the children into fighting him and bringing back the Celestial Dragon Emperor. We don't really know what his motives are. So as a result, it's hard to say if he falls in line more with Skaven, more with Chaos, more with something of that sort. So I think once we find out a little bit more down the road, and I would imagine if the Monkey King ends up becoming something that they put into the old world, or I'm sorry, if Cathay ends up something that they put into the old world, then we'll find out more about the Monkey King and his motives, what type of character he actually is. Someone actually just made my sneak is not mixing. Someone actually just made a comment about this, like saying, hey, you know, Well, I'll get to that in a second, the actual question. But I was saying that a lot of the lore for Cathay, I think, is probably being held back, and this is just a taste to deliberately kind of like line it up for Games Workshop to be like, and here is your $80 tome of Cathay lore that you've all been wanting for 20 years. Buy up, bitches. I'm sure it's going to be something like that. Like if we're looking at the reality of the business model of Games Workshop, that's kind of how they roll. But yeah, I've seen that too. Shagrat, some people saying like it'd be cool if the Monkey King borrowed stuff from Ind and Koresh lore, stuff like that. I think those are all pretty cool statements and kind of ways to look at. Yay, another $100 collector's edition battle tome with no different information, just a different hardcover cover. Says the guy who has, what do I have over here? Says the guy who has literally 2 Lumineth Realm Lord books, bought almost a year apart because Games Workshop decided to split the release of the entire series, and they're both the limited edition codex for no stupid reason other than I like guys with phallic helmets. Moving on. So Anton's second question here is, do you think there will be dragon units, aka permanently transformed dragons for unit purposes, or a lower tier of Eastern Dragon? Anton, that's a sick question. I like that one. And mate, we got Admech, who needs 4 books to be complete. Dude, I played Space Marines, who now needs 19 books to complete. Neon Cat, same thing. I also have the Special Edition Sisters of Battle Codex, and the new one came out before I got to play a game with it. Just 100% Neon. I have the box too that I never got to really go into. All right, but question on the dragons. I think that we'll probably see something like that, but that's only because we haven't seen any monster units, and I want there to be more monster units in Cathay because a lot of the old lore for Cathay. Let me see if I have. Oops. Let me bring up my Master Cathay tome. Here, I'll share this with you, bros. Oh, okay, well, I guess I can't just full size this. Screw me, right? Oh, where is it? There is a bit here on Cathay where it talks about. I'm looking for the part with the dogs. Ah, here it is. They also bring tales of jade cities and high temples where mystics probe the movements of the heavenly bodies and the positions of the stars, of the scholars who inscribe every word ever uttered by their divine emperor. Many strange creatures are said to live in the land of Cathay, from serpentine dragons to gigantic living stone dogs, which guard the temples of the multitudinous gods of Cathay. So, this is... as you can see, I've taken like as much information and helped. This was compiled with the help of a good friend, but you can see how many like monsters and different creatures there are pulled from a lot of the different extrapolations of Cathayan lore. You know, these guys right here were dragged bellowing and helpless into the air by living statues of onyx. The temple dogs, stuff like that. So my want for a just normal dragon unit stems from the fact that I want there to be a lot of different color, different type of monster units in the roster. So I can see there being like really young dragons that haven't learned how to turn into humans yet, which are a smaller form serpentine dragon. I could absolutely see that. Let's go to the third question here. I feel like I answered, but I kind of like second guessed myself, like maybe I didn't fully answer that question. But the third question here is, thank you for getting this far with questions. Do you think Cathay will have great one-horned ogre units? So, Anton, off of the last question, I hope that they do. because in the lore, they play a really big part of the dichotomy between the Ogre Kingdoms and Cathay, because at one point there was my roommate just sent me something on Discord and I was like, what was that? At one point they like worked very hand in hand as very close mercenaries without any animosity. And once the coming of the Great Maw, that really changes a lot of the dynamic between the Cathayans and with the Ogre Kingdoms. But still, there is a presence of these horned Ogre units in the Cathayan lore, and it is a really big part of it too. Like, let me see here. Actually, it's probably in this part here with the horned Ogres. Let's go back to it. I think it's in the Siege of the Great Bastion. Great Wall, War Mammoths, Trampled. Aha! There it is. So, jumping back to my tome here. The Siege of the Great Bastion. During the year 1310, a series of earthquakes caused part of the Great Bastion of Cathay to collapse. A truly colossal... this earthquake was caused by the Slann, by the way. A truly colossal invasion ensued as scores of battle-hungry Kurgan tribes that roamed the steppes flooded into that rich and ancient empire. Hordes of Chaos Warriors battled legions of terracotta automatons, attempting to shore up the Great Wall with their own clay bodies. Mutated war mammoths gored and trampled whole regiments of one-horned ogres, and in the skies above, demon princes dueled with bejeweled gold dragons. The Cathayans ultimately blunted the invasion, but not before the Chaos Horde had carved a bloody path into the heartland of the Orient. So, I really think that we should expect to see a lot of different variety from Cathay. And I would be kind of disappointed if they didn't, if they just threw out all this pre-established lore. Yeah, and they kind of have the same look of a Japanese Oni, a regal giant. But I wouldn't be stoked. I would not be stoked if they said, you know what, unless they made like a statement here. Like what I think is really interesting is we're traversing some pretty interesting territory. There are pre-existing notions, right, about Cathay and the way its army should be assembled and made and put together. And if they don't go with those steps, they should really explain why. I mean, they don't need to, right? They don't need, they don't answer to us, but at the same time, we are consumers, and consumers do pay their bills by consuming. So justify it, like help give us a little frame of reference as to why you've made the decision to step away from, let's just say, single-horned or one-horned ogres. Hey, you know, one-horned ogres were a part of the Cathayan lore in the past, and the reason we decided not to do it is because of this when it comes to army composition. But you'll find them as a big part of the lore here, and it's the reason they're not in Total War Warhammer. Or just don't put them in and explain why. Like, does GW ever explain anything that way? No, they don't. CK3 benchmarks, but I can always say out loud, I wish that they would, because it would make more sense. If they were all of a sudden, if the Jade Dogs, the Onyx statues, the one-horned ogres, all that was just scrapped, it would be really weird. It would be awkward. It would just be like, okay, so we're just going to completely ignore that you guys created a lore that you've retconned for yourself, which they do all the time. So let's be fair here. But I think that people have a lot of pre-existing notions for Cathay, and they can really work with that rather than abandoning it. And I don't want them to throw away all the single-horned ogres, one-horned ogres. All right, so we got plenty more questions here to go through. So let's take a second here and take a look at chat. We'll see a DLC trailer on the Ogre Kingdoms as well. Oh, for sure, JJ. We for sure will. Like, didn't we got one for Norska? That's a good point too, Glam. Not to mention potentially scrapping any form of assassin presence in Cathay would really screw over Eshin lore too. Well, keep in mind as well that Eshin did learn from, what's it called? From Nippon as well. Nippon and Cathay. How do you think both Cathay and Kislev will be able to enter the Chaos Realm? Do you think Be'lakor will have something to do with it? I don't know. I don't know. We don't have a bunch of precedents of this happening before with tons of armies just going back and forth like it's a big giant portal to walk through. So I'm not sure, but I do hope that the Chaos Realms are another realm or like another map. And I've always speculated this, that it'd be cool if, like in Heroes of Might and Magic, you go through... Thank you to whoever became a new member. I didn't see what it was. I didn't see the notification. You go through like a little thing into the underworld portion of Heroes of Might and Magic. It's a whole map under the top realm. You navigate around. Oh, you go through this portal, you pop up somewhere. So it'd be cool if the Chaos Realm had a lot of erratic random behavior to it. Like maybe Chaos Demon players can't move through the mortal realm until they do certain things, and when they do, they have no idea what will pop out. Like, it'd be cool if there was randomness to it, but I can also understand from a gameplay perspective, randomness does not create replayability, and it also frustrates a lot of gamers. A lot of people want formulaic approaches to things. So from a game creator standpoint, they probably would say, no, we can't make it so that you randomly appear anywhere, because people might just, oh, I randomly appeared somewhere and RNG just completely shafted me. So I could see it not having a little bit more of a structured approach, but I'm not really sure how they're going to do the Chaos Realms. Let's see here. If you're saying more things, I'm not reading it. I've scrolled up. So let me see here. Oh. What about a full terracotta army? I would love the presence of more terracotta style units, 100% Revenger. Can you speak more to your ideal Ivory Road? I did a whole video on it just yesterday, that guy you know, basically saying that I want the Ivory Road to, if it doesn't have some sort of cool trade mechanic, it'd be cool if it was kind of like a Warhammer Oregon Trail, wherein you're basically dealing with dilemmas as you send the Great Caravan across the Ivory Road to do some trade. Okay, just like the monster expeditions from Troy, you're going to deal with 5 dilemmas, and those 5 dilemmas are going to determine the outcome of the actual caravan itself and what you get from it. You think we get the full map of Warhammer World? Hold, please. Enhance. That's a big one. We'll use that one. Oh, fuck my... I mean, damn, shoot, don't. Open image, a new tab. What the hell, man? What the hell? Why can't I just look at this stupid Warhammer map? Thank you. Okay, let's display capture on. One button. So, here's the entire Warhammer map. This stuff all right here, do I think we will ever get it? Because, I mean, we've got everything else, right? I mean, we don't really have, we have like this, right? We have like that right there. We got this portion of the Chaos Wasteland. I don't know, but I think the good thing is that if we look at this map, we're going to get the Darklands, right? We're going to get the Ogre Kingdoms, the Mountains of Morn, and depending on how far south we get in Cathay, let's just say this is as far south as we get. I think that's a pretty good little estimate of where we might go. Well, there is a High Elf Hold right here. Then you get the Kingdoms of Ind. But the Hobgoblin Empire, I don't think we're going to get that far north. But on the new map, it's kind of... The Hobgoblin Empire is more like over here now. So I think with 3, we have the possibility to go into these regions. But I don't know if we will. Because a lot of this stuff is pretty wild and crazy in the lore. And that might be their chance to kind of shore it up and make it make more sense, you know? Ind has like the Land of Thousand Gods, and it has tiger-headed beastmen and all sorts of crazy stuff. So I could be really down with that, but I'm not sure if they're going to go into it. The Hinterlands of Koresh have a beautiful fan-made project, guys. You guys know I've been covering it, and that's probably the best representation of the lore for Koresh, is because there's so little information on Koresh. It's like, it's a land that the old ones used to inhabit, but now are not. Like, oh. Like, we know that there's like Naga snake people there. And Nippon, we know, is very Japanese themed, but that's really it, right? We have just like this small little like crumb of information. Lost Isles of Elithis is like high elf sea people or something like that. It's like a hybrid human elf race, I think it was, or something like that. They borrow from a lot of the neighboring regions. And then over to the east, Lumbria, you get the Great Pygmies, which, by the way, is not like said in many places other than one single article. So a lot of this stuff is all just super shrouded in mystery. At least Grand Cathay plays into way more lore than just simply an obscure article here and there. Even Ind has got more representation in lore stuff than the other two locations. Nipponi's biggest claim to fame is that Nippon and Cathay are the two regions that Eshin assassins learn their craft. Ind has a good location as far as where it pertains to Lokir Felheart and the origin of the Red Blades. Like, those places just have like kind of footnote stamps upon the more prominent portions of Warhammer lore. So I could see of everything here, Nippon and Ind being a little bit more likely than Koresh or Elithis. But I think that once the fan project for Koresh gets going and like really gets more fleshed out, I think it might start to pick up a lot more speed. What about the vampire elements of Cathay? You did a video on that some time ago. Yeah, there's the whole Jade Blooded line, which I really want Creative Assembly to at least crack open or talk a little bit more about. Having a whole different bloodline of vampires, I think, would be really, really awesome. And in my lore video for the army list, I talked about Harakati, the Jade Blooded, one of the people that comes from Nehekara over into, or Lamia, over into Grand Cathay, and how they have a really large spanning relationship too, even with the Lamians, Neferata, and Harakati still have conversations and such like that. So still very much in the continuum of the lore. What do you think is more likely, Nippon DLC or Araby DLC? Nippon 100%. I think Araby is not going to ever happen, unfortunately. When do you think we will... which is unfortunate too, because I think... I understand the like need to not want to go into like, oh, you know, it's a volatile subject right now. It's fucking not. Like, if you did like early Islamic caliphates, it's not a volatile subject. Like the Umayyads and stuff like that. That is not like, no one's gonna be like, hey, motherfucker, don't you dare bring that up right here. No, sir. Like, I think that is the way Araby, in my mind, that's the way Araby should be portrayed. Is that kind of medieval Islamic empire that has a lot of really cool shit going for it. Like, when you think historically speaking, those Islamic empires and those Islamic caliphates throughout like a lot of the Crusades and the pre-portions of the Crusades, right? With the destruction of the Visigoths all throughout Spain and the conquering of Al-Andalus and the rise of Islam, like all of that has really, 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 really awesome and rich historical and cultural references to draw from. That is not just simply like, okay, it's a guy who has got a turban on a rug with a genie. Like, you don't need to take that route. And that's what like Matthias Ellison did with his Araby list. He pulled more from historical references to a lot of the Arabic forces of history that make for a really, really sick roster, and less of just, hey, the guy's name's Jafar. Like, here's how you fix that. You make his name an actual name, right? Like an actual historical or setting his appropriate name. And then you just put, which is commonly colloquially known in the West, like the Western old worlds, as Jafar. Like poorly translated as Jafar. Something like that. Like, you could really just countermand that really easily. You don't really have to go, well, how do we deal with Jafar? Oh, here's what you do. You get a fucking parrot, you have it talk on his shoulder, and that's how you do it. That's how you deal with Jafar. Like, no, you just move past it and say like, oh, it's crudely translated as Jafar. There you go. Like, done. Nippon's biggest claim to fame is that its shogun had a sword called Toyota. Is that really a thing? I don't... Or are you just making a good joke? I mean, I wouldn't mind the parrot. Like, I just mean, like, there's so many ways you could take that and have it be a really cool faction that has a lot of really cool design cues pulled from history, just like Grand Cathay clearly has, without it being like, hey, this is kind of a tense subject right now. Only if you make it tense like that, man. Like, come on, dude. Let's see here, scrolling up. Is there a reason for different pronunciations of names? Like in Total War, Malekith is pronounced Malekith, but in Mark of Chaos it's pronounced Malekith. I don't think it's pronounced Kith in Total War, and I could be wrong, but I've always pronounced it Malekith, and because it's from Norse mythology, it's a dark elf. But I think the biggest issue with all Games Workshop pronunciation is there's no proper Games Workshop lexicon. If Games Workshop just out and said, hey, we understand that, I don't know why they don't. We understand that people mispronounce Robute Guilliman, Robute Guilliman, like a bunch of times. Here's the way that we pronounce it internally. You can pronounce it however you want as part of your headcanon. We understand that our games are meant to cater to the way you want to play them, the way you envision them. But here is our kind of like official lexicon that we use internally within the office. Boom! You fix all of this how to pronounce bullshit that happens all the time. You guys have no idea. No idea how many comments I deal with when it comes to pronunciation. Yeah, Abaddon versus Abaddon. That's another good one there, Drock. Oh, Will, I did not know that, dude. That's why Robute Guilliman, his nickname is Rowboat. I call him Bobby G, and people in my video are like, why are you calling him Bobby G? His name's Reboot. I'm like, okay, calm down, Space Marine fanboy. Alright, Smurf. We all know the Ultramarines aren't that cool. The Ultramarines only got cool in the last, like, 2 years, where they decided to pull heavily from Roman and Greek stuff. Okay, so let's get back to some of the questions here that were asked a little bit earlier. 43. Going back into this. I'm trying to make these timestamps, so I apologize, guys. Okay, so where is this? So, Nicholas, I see you, my bro. I see you in chat here, Petreo. So it seems like the rivalries we have so far is Kislev versus Khorne and Cathay versus Tzeentch. Will we see more rivalries, or do you think Game 3 is only going to focus on those? So that's actually a really good question, because... Hold on, please. Hold, please. When you're saying like the rivalries between Kislev and Khorne and Cathay versus Tzeentch, will we see more rivalries, or do you think Game 3 is gonna only focus on those? I think what we've yet to see, and this goes a part of your other question that says who would be canonical rivals for the other two Lords of Chaos anyway. We have yet to see anything about the Great Game, right? How the ruinous powers and chaos are always fighting each other. So until we see more of that, I think it's hard to say who the direct rivals will be, because remember, Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, Slaanesh, they all don't really like each other, and they all don't want the other to get ahead of the other. So, hold on. Just calm the fuck down, man named Paul Balls. Going off on chat from the hip over here. So, because we don't really know how that plays into it, and I think that they're holding that back because, and I think another question here was asked about this, but the next reveal will probably be Nurgle versus Slaanesh, and that would probably give us a hint as to how the mechanic of the ruinous powers operates, how they kind of fight and go at one another. And I would imagine that's when we'll get an idea of how the rivalries, quote unquote, would shake out. $45, $30. Your next question here is, will we see, what did I hit? I didn't hit record, did I? Next question. Will we see fully fledged Nurgle and Slanesh factions who also have rival factions, or do you think the secondary legendary lords of Kislev and Cathay will face them? No, and just to kind of further answer your question with what I just said before, I think once we find out more about the kind of great game, it'll answer a little bit more of that question for you. And I apologize if that doesn't satisfy the question as much. I just feel like, unfortunately, it's hard to draw a lot of claims about the game's current state of rivalries and who's going to fight who until we figure out a little bit more about how the campaign map is split up and how the other factions work and what their mechanics are going to be. Like right now, it seems, okay, Katarine is going to be primarily fighting against Khorne, and maybe it'll be Miao Ying versus Tzeentch. But we don't know anything about Zhao Ming and who he's going to fight. Is he going to be fighting the ogres primarily? What's his big thing? So I understand where your question's coming from, but I think that once we figure out more of their placements on the map and the other factions' mechanics, it'll kind of help us determine who will fight who and what the kind of overall rivalry, quote unquote, would be. So it's not a question that was asked, but I'm going to answer it because it's something that just kind of keeps coming up, and I don't like the sentiment and the direction it comes from. And I think it stems from an 8th edition kind of old guard mentality, and I think it's kind of a stuffy mentality that I don't like. So a lot of people have been saying, like, Cathay seems so Mary Sue, which I fucking hate that term, and Cathay seems so not grimdark. Well, for one, this isn't Warhammer 40k. It doesn't need to be grimdark. If you've ever read any of the Gotrek and Felix or Gotrek and Felix books, it's not a very necessarily grimdark setting. It's a dark fantasy setting. And even outside of that, like, people in Altdorf, yeah, sure, they're like a little dirty and stuff like that, but they're not an oppressed people. They do have an inquisition that kind of roots out witches and the such, but I kind of just find that stuff to be normal fantasy tropes. It's not, you don't go out into the forest and worry about like a cosmic terror ripping your face off like you do in 40k, right? Robert Raff, you see Mary Sue with your great looks and knowledge. I think that Cathay seems just like any other Warhammer army book. We are basically reading the Warhammer army book for Cathay right now. And what happens when you read any Warhammer army book, it is nothing but sparkling recognition of that army book's amazingness. And you made the best choice possible picking up this army book about this amazing race that could kill all the other races with one sweep of its whatever. Like, when you read the High Elf book, it talks about the gleaming phalanxes of the Silver Host moving in perfect unison and in concert with unparalleled speed and ferocity. Then why are they a race that's dying out? Then why are they a race that is killed by other things relatively easily? They've got some of the lowest toughness in the game. So it's important to realize that what you're reading with Cathay is Cathay propaganda, basically, right? Like, of course, they all work in perfect harmony and in amazing unison so that they can defeat the armies of the forces of the North, making them an unbeatable bastion against chaos. And no one worships the Celestial Dragon Emperor because he is an amazing, benevolent lord. Like, yeah, man, because I'm reading the book for Cathay. Once we jump into the lore for Cathay from varying perspectives, and as it kind of comes out into what I assume is coming in the old world, right? I think we all can agree that it seems like it's going to be brought into the old world. That's, I think, when we'll start to see the kind of dark underbelly of Cathay, right? Like, Cathay's older lore deals with Skaven. We don't know anything about the Skaven and Cathay's relationship. Monkey King and how he brought Skaven to the forefront of Cathayan politics. We still don't know much more about that. So I think once we discover more about this, once Games Workshop releases its tome about Cathay and all the knowledge, because even when you read a Dark Elf book, the High Elf book, the Dwarf book, the Empire book, there's always the portion of the book that says, but wait, there is something more sinister you don't know about. And it's always done that way. That's the formula that they take, where everything is drummed up over the top in perfect unison and beautiful accomplishment, because this is the most amazing book. Because you don't want to read an army book that you just picked up and have it not be amazing, right? You just spent, well, I guess back in the day when I was buying them in 6th edition, they were 25 bucks, 30 bucks. Yeah, because a codex was 20 and a supplement was 15, I think. But you want to open that book and you want to feel like you chose the badass army. You chose the army that beats everyone else. So you don't want to read a book that goes, the High Elves are pretty good, but with all things considered, not the best. Some things kind of beat them out, but hey, you get cool helmets. No one wants to read that. They want to read that their army is the fastest, the strongest, the best, the toughest, all on so on and so forth. There is no war in Ba Sing Se. It's 100% true, Neon. So that's my take on the whole grimdark thing. It's just bullshit. It's gatekeeping from Old Guard 8th edition. It goes, well, actually, when you can do it, like, stop. Just stop. This is something new brought into the lore. And as a result, it has to appear amazing. When the Sisters of Battle got their brand new codex, it was balls out incredible. On top of it, they got nothing but non-stop model releases. They're still doing model releases for Sisters of Battle a year and a half after their fucking launch back in last November. So this is just how Games Workshop releases stuff. They do nothing but flood your optics with amazingness for this army, so you at least now want to take a look at it and get a little hit of it. So don't look at it as there's no grimdark to this when it's a dark fantasy setting to begin with, but look at it more as, okay, we're reading this from the perspective of basically a Cathayan author, if you want to think of it that way. Muramasa, thank you very much, man. Our first and biggest donation of the day from Big Daddy Muramasa S, a $20 banger, saying, do you think CA will bring Cathayan Jet in new lore? I hope so. I hope that we get a lot of the old lore brought into Cathayan stuff for Total War Warhammer 3. Is it possible the alchemists use Warpstone in their spells? Yes, I think so, because Zhao Ming, it talks about Zhao Ming has an obsession with alchemy, and he does dabble with Warpstone. So I think that the Warpstone is used in alchemy. But what would be really cool is what if Cathay, since it's so old and ancient, and the Dragon Emperor's been around before the old ones and all that, what if he found a way to kind of purify Warpstone? Like they have Warpstone foundries, and that's what empowers all these automatons is purified Warpstone or something like that. I think that'd be a really cool mechanic, and it'd be cool if you have to kind of yin and yang that. Okay, there's corrupted Warpstone, which is normal Warpstone, and there's purified Warpstone, which Cathayans make, and you have to kind of work a balance in that for Zhao Ming's mechanic. I think that'd be a really, really cool idea. In blog, could the Elemental Winds be Cathayan version of Winds of Magic? Hold on, music stopped. Play now. Thank you. I think that's a pretty cool idea. I never thought about that. I was looking at the Elemental Winds as a representation of the what's it called? The siblings. The Northern Wind is representative of Miao Ying, the Western representative of Zhao Ming, so on and so forth. But that's a pretty cool idea. They're saying hey, that's not. This is actually we don't call it the Winds of Magic. We call it the Elemental Winds. That's a pretty good stance on that. I like that, Muramasa. You're so smart. You just want to start a YouTube channel and take over mine. I mean, what? So Flying Spaceship says, my problem isn't the lore, but the overall aesthetic. What do you mean, man? What about the High Elves says grimdark to you? What about the Bretonnian Knights says grimdark to you? I mean, the Bretonnians oppress the peasantry. That's grimdark, I guess you could say, but that's feudalism. And the High Elves they have hearts on their armor, man. I'm not getting down on you. I'm just saying I think that the aesthetic that you are looking at is colored over decades of edition growing. And Cathay has to come in hard and heavy fast. They have to bring in all they can do. What, Angry Jenkins? Glad to be here in Cathay lore at last. Thank you, Jarl of the North. Huge donation, $50, biggest of the day. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you for the donation.
You hot bastard. Seem limited? I think that I bet you we're gonna have some terracotta stuff. Like, we have to. What am I excited for more? Meow or Zhao? Probably Zhao. I don't know though. It's hard for me to say that. All I know is how they look and their dragons. That's it. Miao Ying reminds me of the onyx dragon I used to grind for in Mists of Pandaria and World of Warcraft. So I have like an automatic like hate for that dragon because I finally got it, but fuck, I grinded that thing forever. One sec, guys. Okay. Yeah, Pandaria. God damn it. Dude, I can't wait for Slaanesh. I can't wait for it. Okay, let's do 2 more questions and we'll turn it back to the audience. I can see what you're saying, flying spaceship, but I also think that a lot of that vibrant and glowing it shows like step into the world of Cathay, step into the world of Kislev, step into the world of Khorne. It's highlighting that faction, so they want it to be glowing and over the top. Like, dude, take a look at step into the world of the Dark Elves or the High Elves they did during the marketing roll up for those in Warhammer 2. It was, I mean, gleaming, beautiful High Elf ranks. The Dark Elves looked pristine in their nipple twisting awesomeness, you know. So it's like I said, I think it's just a little bit of the propaganda of that faction, right? Like highlighting that faction, making it look badass and over the top. I just think that's the way it is. Okay, let me go into another one here. 5830. This one is from the Hobgoblin. Given how the latest article presented the Bastion as solely a barrier against chaos, do you think that this means no Hobgoblins in Total War, just like CA bailed on the Savage Greenskins as a unique race, despite giving them a unique category since Game 1? That is that's a pretty good question, and it's a little volatile one there. But the Hobgoblin Con was specifically mentioned in one of the Cathay blog posts. So at least there's a representation of it that they know that it kind of is part of the quote unquote continuum of it all. But I think that honestly, it'll just kind of come out to be some sort of weird gimped out greenskin or like Chaos Dwarf hodgepodge faction with like Chaos Dwarf and greenskin units. I don't know if they'll actually jump full into the Hobgoblin Khanate. I would love them to, but I just don't know if they will. I think it might be a holder army until the very, very end. I just don't think it's something that I don't think it's something that we could see early. Mark my words, Glam. Glam said those Hobgoblins are coming, man. I can feel it. They're up next after the Chaos Dwarfs. I think I bet you we're going to get some sort of Empire thing. Tilia, Estalia, Dogs of War, something like that, rather than after Chaos Dwarfs or Ogre Kingdoms, whatever is not the DLC race or the pre-order race. Because Empire is the most played faction in Game 1 and 2. So they're going to want a full-on Empire representation. It was one of the most played factions in Warhammer Fantasy. So I could see them doing something like Tilia, Estalia, or Dogs of War, which are that kind of Empire vibe. I don't know why they're the most played faction when you have high elves you could play. I'm just fucking around. Okay, so let's go into the next question here. Let me put that down. We're at the 1 hour mark. And the question is, since they by Jules de Vries, or de Vries, since the armies of Grand Cathay have faced the many horrors of chaos, do you think they will have exceptionally high leadership and immunity to psychology? Good. Smacking of the mic. Good question, but I think if we look at kind of the older lore, it's comprised a lot of levies and peasants, and we get that in the images, right? In the background images, we see these elite rank and file dudes, and I think that you brought this up, Flying Spaceship. All of what we've seen in the trailers are these elite units, and I think that once we actually dive into the true, probably proper tier 1 and 2 unit representations for Cathay, we'll find that it's a lot of peasantry, conscripted peasant forces, and untrained armies. And I think as a result, that is going to result, that's going to result in lower leadership and non-immune to psychology. But I bet you their elite units will. I'm sure that harmony as a game mechanic is going to play into something where units will have to work in concert with one another to keep morale high. And as long as morale is above 50% threshold, they'll get something. Just like Kislev has a similar thing, where if their morale is above a 50% threshold, they get certain bonuses. And I bet you that's because all the factions they're fighting are going to be playing havoc on their morale as a result of being demons. So I'm feeling pretty confident that harmony has to do with, okay, you have to keep elite units within range of peasant units, or else they're really likely to rout, or they'll lose certain bonuses, something like that. Or something having to do with ranged and melee being close to one another to give bonuses. Because it's what it keeps talking about in all these articles of the harmony of units in conjunction with like ranks of spears holding the line while things shoot over them and stuff like that. So I think that there's some sort of mechanic around that. So let's go ahead and stop right there for a quick second because I have to pee. But as soon as I come back, which was literally going to take me like, I pee over there. Going to be like 35 seconds, I promise. We'll answer questions from the chat before jumping right back into more questions that you guys have asked. Give me just 1 second. Yeah, man, I had to wash my hands, Rafa. Come on, dude. Give me 1 sec, guys, too. I also have to feed these cats who are howling their asses off. 1 sec. Okay, let's get back to this. There was a donation here earlier, though, from Outraged Deer. Thank you very much, man, for the $5 donation. Let me hit your question next. Oh, my glasses off. Discombobulated me. I think that part of it is we haven't seen the dark side of Cathay society, like the fact the Hyles are a dying race or Bretonnians being pawns. Yeah, I mean, 100%, man. We have only seen the beautiful, glowing ranks of the elite of Cathay, and not the disgusting peasantry that is disenfranchised by the elite. So it's a really good point. It's a really, really good point, dude. And thank you very much for the donation, brother. So guys, in chat, if you want to ask me a question, type in @ItalianSpartacus so I can see it. It makes it a little bit easier for me to pull my eyes to your question, and it makes it so that I know you're not talking to other people in chat. And ask away. Do you think Cathay will have a similar mechanic to Bretonia's peasant mechanic? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Or maybe Harmony is having a certain amount of peasant forces and a certain amount of elite forces that work like, okay, you can only have 10 and 10 of each, or 5 and 5 of each. So actually, yeah, maybe it's a possibility. Do you think we get unique Skaven around Cathay? I would love if we had got the same exact Skaven but unique models. Do I have any information of the game that we don't? Nope. Truka, I answered that. That was the very first question I answered. So I have no... I am under an NDA for anything that I would have. But like I said, if I had anything, I just wouldn't even touch your question. So I don't have anything that I can talk about. Do you believe the majority of the Legendary Lord for Cathay will be children of the Dragon Emperor? Or could we see mortals being elevated to Legendary Lord status to give something different besides... Mortal Kombat? What's MK? Is it Mortal Kombat? Please tell me it's Mortal Kombat. I would like to see some human elements. I don't need to see a human Legendary Lord, though. Unless it's like a Celestial Dragon Monk and he's a badass. Or Dian Chin would be a cool one, right? Who is the Tzeentchian Cathayan sorcerer. That would be cool. But as far as like a Cathayan emperor, or I'm sorry, like a Cathayan warlord, I could just have that be one of the children, just rather than being an outright spellcaster. Like, oh, maybe not as good as spells, you know, a little short bus on that, but really, really badass in combat. I could go with that instead. Do you feel like Miao Ying is a bit uninteresting? All they keep saying about her is that she is stoic, cold, and incredibly powerful, which is a bit boring. No. I mean, I just think we don't know much about her, and I think they're just saying the same thing over and over. So we don't have enough to go off of for me to make a... by that thing, Zhao Ming seems just as annoying and just as uninteresting. I think it's just... They're trying to make something out of nothing for this past week, I've noticed. I've got another video coming out tomorrow, which I'm going to talk about the same shit I've been talking about all week, so... I don't know why they just... Oh, MK is Monkey King. Gotcha. Okay, thank you, guys. I don't know why they decided to do this level of Cathay lore dump. It's cool, but it could have been done in like 2 days, not 7 or 5. Dongjuao DLC when? I would love that. That'd be hilarious. Whose design do you like more out of the siblings? I mean, they have a really similar design, man. Like, look at them. I like the big dragon motif on Zhao's chest, but I think overall, Miao Ying looks a little bit cooler to me. And I think it's because I haven't seen enough of Zhao Ming. I've only seen Zhao Ming statically as a PNG. I've not seen him in an actual, like, what does his combat look like? What does it look like when he's in his dragon form? Does he have cool abilities? So I think it's purely based off of aesthetics. I like the actual robe and everything that also cool too is, take a look at this. Her armor and the armor of all of the Cathayans so far is what's called mountain armor. Mountain pattern armor. It's really, really cool. It's kind of like, it's the equivalent of, my friend put this perfectly. It's the equivalent of Chinese Greek fire. So Shanwenkia, which is mountain pattern armor, we know that it exists, but we have not been able to successfully recreate it. Well, I guess there's portions they've been able to do it in China that's produced good results, but it's this really, really, really interesting pattern of armor that is recreated in all of the automatons. We saw it in some of the concept sketches. It's on Miao Ying, but this armor kind of has this very unique looking scale or lamellar, and it seems to, as you can see from here, be very flexible and have the ability to move very, very well. But we see it repeated through a lot of different drawings, as well as what are these things called? This is not architecture, these are statues. So hey, best thick toenail clipper. If I want to just really whack off my goddamn toe, I know I can go do it right here at swissclip.com. But I really, really like that they've taken that kind of design direction and used a lot of these elements, just because it really makes it have a little bit more of that like historical authenticity, which is pretty sweet when it comes to recreating that we've seen with Bretonia, we've seen with the Empire. It just makes it have a little bit more grounding, and I really, really like that design choice. Also, remember guys, if you want a lot of sweet ass energy, make sure that you use, check that out, see, I made that, I didn't make that, I put that in here, they made it for me, but go use creator code SPARTY at checkout if you are using, or if you want to buy any Sneak Energy products. I get a cut and it helps support the channel, and I would not tell you that it's good if I didn't actually like it and support it. But I fucking love my Sneak Energy. Head on over to sneakenergy.com. Okay, what do you think will be the weakness of Cathay? I don't know. I have no idea. Right now, it seems like they don't have access to a lot of flying like units. I mean, yeah, they've got their battle barges, but so do the dwarfs, right? And those things aren't necessarily particularly strong when it comes to a ton of other shit up in the air. And they get their dragons, and that's great. But their cavalry also seems really limited, and we haven't seen any of it, just in actual drawings. So right now, unit diversity seems to be their biggest downside. Like, I don't know what is fast in their army. Everything seems somewhat slow, and that might be that their big shtick is that they are a slow, cumbersome army. They don't have fast movement. So I guess we just have to find out at that roster reveal, whenever that is. Would you want a hunter and beast style colonial expedition in the east, and what world faction would you want there? Not really. It wouldn't really fit or jive with a lot of what's already exists. The east is like this mystical, enigmatic, shrouded land, and any kind of like colonial expedition would get shot down because it's a established empire. So I don't think it would really go very well. What's the best way to get old 8th edition lore books at this point, or do you think Games Workshop will reprint them for the upcoming tabletop? Nick, just type into Google 8th edition Warhammer army book, or a specific race if you want, and you'll find it. Like, I have downloaded all of them. They're there. They're really easy to find. Panda Beastman when? Tomorrow. Are you concerned about combat animations for samurai style characters without matched combat? No. No, not really. Combat animations and reuse animations and stuff like that doesn't really concern me. Reuse as many animations as you need to. Combat animations will make sense as they need to. Like, There are very few things in Total War Warhammer that have truly jankety animations where I'm like, whoa. And even then, I just don't care. Like, I'm so about the game and I love the setting so much that I'll excuse stuff like that. Like, a lot of people harp on reused animations. I think that that's just kind of naysaying to naysay. Like, I don't give a shit if they've reused the Chaos Warrior animations for the Chaos Warriors and for the Khorne Warriors, because they're both Chaos Warriors. And if it gets the job done and puts them into the game, I'm happy to have it there. If it had its own custom skeleton, sure, but you have to understand something. When it comes to development budget, the majority of it is eaten up by the framework, by the actual skeleton, the 3D skeleton wireframe, as it's called, that makes that 3D model. And they're going to reuse that wireframe as many times as possible. So a Rotting Leviathan and the Ragnarok Spider are the exact same wireframe, but they have different custom animations. Everything on the Rotting Leviathan is an animated aspect. Like, that is amazing. So that stuff doesn't really concern me. They've done a really good job up to this point. There's not a point that in all of Total War where I've been like, that's not true. That is not true. Those feral war lions? What the fuck are those? The white lion chariot has a white lion on his shoulder that does not match the white lion who's pulling that chariot. That's my only problem. That's my only gripe. That's my only gripe. Those things are cracked out. They're like they're all twitchy too. They're like, I just want to fucking eat something. Like, that's my only gripe. That's my only one. The Kotal is probably the animation for Miao Yang that they just slammed it to. But even then, the Kotal doesn't bother me. I'm not gonna lie. It doesn't bother me at all. So Maximilian 26 said they would talk about pre-order this month. Do you think they will still talk about it? I don't. And I thought it was this month too, but after rereading it, they said, okay, we've got news on the sieges coming out in September. Shortly thereafter, we will talk about the early adopter bonus. That's the actual wording. So I think we'll probably see it next month. White lions are not inbred in the lore, no. There's not a sea world in Lothern where they breed white lions and merworms. Vlad von Karstein has the same animation as an Empire soldier. Like, what the fuck? Do you think binging with Babish would do well in the Ogre Kingdoms? This would be another case of do as I say, not as I do. And go ahead and just tiny whisk that together. You're going to then take 2 raw eggs and crack them into this bowl. And go ahead and contact your roommate and have him help you make this dish. Join the Clean Plate Club. Glam says they have Longbow Riders too, so I'd say air-wise they're good, to be honest. I forgot about Longbow Riders. And I would really like to see Chilin as well. Who are you planning to play first? Probably Kislev, because my strength coach is Russian, and I have like a weird fascination with Russian culture. Do you know when we might see some more Cathay or Siege gameplay? I don't, Vivek. Hopefully very soon. Hopefully before the month's end. In the cinematic trailer, the Lord of Change demon showed has 3 eyes, but in the Cathay trailer, both of Kairos' heads have 2 eyes. What do you think about it? I think in the trailer that's a representation of the Chaos Gods versus that being actual Kairos Fate Weaver in the Cathay trailer. Chinese alchemy was all about self-improvement through elixirs and meditation. Do you think Cathay and alchemy will be similar? I'm not sure, because Cathay and alchemy seems to be nefarious in its actual nature. It seems to be kind of somewhat frowned upon in what we've read so far in some of these lore blogs. So I think it's going to have something to do with probably warpstone and some sort of alchemical manipulation. I think they also did something about hinting towards the jade and lead-lined drinking vessels that emperors were using in ancient Chinese history. I think they did something about that with like the lore so far. I can't remember, but I think not Chinese alchemy. I think Cathayan alchemy is not the Chinese alchemy route. It's a little bit more nefarious in its reception, at least. I hope the siblings don't start off at war like Cetra and Arkin, considering they dislike each other's thoughts. I don't think they will. I just think they'll just be at ends with each other. Does he not know you were Babish? I am just a little disappointed in Cathay's, or not Cathay, in Kislev's roster. It's kind of like boring. But Breton and Kislev ready to win war and do this. You think Ogre Kingdoms versus Nurgle, and what if Slaanesh against who? I think it'd be Nurgle versus Slaanesh. I think that's the next thing, and I think it's going to give us like a hint into how the actual relationship between those two is going to operate, and what it is going to be between all the other Chaos Gods. Do you think the Celestial Pit, Miramasa asks, do you think the Celestial City will appear above Wei Jin on the campaign map to make it a unique look? I hope so. I hope so. I hope that this time around they've taken a little bit more of a note from the modders that have made these larger cities feel a little bit more unique and sprawling. So I would hope that something like Wei Jin has a little bit more gravitas to it than just simply being a large looking city on the map. Kind of like Altdorf, I wish kind of had from the campaign map perspective, like stuff like a giant statue of Sigmar or the College of Magic, just to make it look like a truly unique and important city to Empire. So I hope that they take that in mind. And same thing with Kislev. Like I wanted to have stuff like the Book of Palace visible from the campaign map. Or visible maybe when you produce it, whatever it is. How much would you be paid to be in one of those balloons when the chaos stack? No, thank you, pal. I'm not going. I'm not going. Not going. Not going. Not going. Not going. My baby. Alfred. Pull the back car around. I want to go to McDonald's. They're gonna swear to me. I said, I don't care that the ice cream machine is broken. What would you change about the Kislev roster? Asked Cassiel Arlem. Sorry, man. Just butchered your name like 5 times right there. I think seeing a little bit more variety with the Bear Cav would have been cool. Seeing the Baba Yaga would have been cool. The Frost Fiend would have been nifty. We did a whole lore video on this. The War Sleds are cool, but they're kind of weird too at the same time. But I do think that variety on the Bears is going to be huge. And I think once we find out Regiments of Renown, it's probably going to spice things up a little bit, but we do need that. Yeah, and more mounts for heroes and lords that aren't bears. Like, I just want a fucking hero on a horse. Alright, Cincinnati. Alright, Cincinnati. Cincinnati said, can you do a Smeagol impression as well? What would you like me to say in Smeagol voice? Do you think we could get a trailer for Be'lakor fighting everyone, or just Cathay and Kislev? You know, I definitely think Be'lakor is going to be in there somewhere, and that's a really good question of when, at what point does he come in, right? Like, I think it'd be really cool as if the Nurgle and Slaanesh. Okay, let's say they did this. Let's say they did this. Okay, Brain Cosmos. Nurgle and Slaanesh video comes out, and it's Nurgle that's fighting Slaanesh just in the way that it was Cathay and Tzeentch and Kislev and Khorne. So you get this huge thing, but the very end of it, there's something that kind of goes like, not to quote like the butcher from Diablo, but like, oh, fresh meat. Like something like that. Like, whoa, what was that really weird demonic voice? What the hell was that? And the end of that trailer starts the Be'lakor trailer, if they bring Be'lakor into the game. And that's how we find like Be'lakor like just slapping down all these Chaos Lords, saying like, no, you are going to listen to me, or something of that sort. Like you are going to be my instrument. That would be really kind of crazy and cool if they did something like they did with the Silence and the Fury, right? Where they kind of broke the trailer into 2. And they say, hey, here's the teaser of the first trailer, but the first trailer actually leads into the second trailer. That's the actual thing. That would be really cool. You missed my question. Do you think the Astra Dragons will be able to breathe fire on the ground in Warhammer 3? I hope they do, Josh. I've said that many times.
Thank you for the donation.
Outraged Deer. One way they could darken Cathay is make the dragons extremely arrogant and prideful, who will gladly sacrifice hundreds of thousands of humans to win. I bet you that's where it's gonna come down to. I bet you that's what it's gonna come down to. Is it's gonna come down to like, hey, yeah, all of them, like, because they keep saying like the peasants don't worship them. They love the celestial god emperor. I'm like, okay. So I wonder if there is going to be a little bit of an oppression or something of that sort, where it is like they're just used as fodder. I could absolutely see that happening. Outraged Deer. I need water. I need water so bad. I haven't drank water this entire time. Yeah, Axio said, they literally said you get murdered for speaking bad about the dragons. So it does create this kind of air of like, everything's great. Don't talk bad about them though. But everything's great. We live in harmony here. But don't you fucking talk about our dragons. Like it kind of seems like nationalistic pride that's forced at gunpoint, you know? I just spilled all over myself. It's not on camera, thank God, but it is all over my standing mat right now. I do not know, just saying, unfortunately. All right, let me jump into some more lore here. Okay, 127. That was audience questions here, so let me write that down. Let's go 128. So. Regal Giant said, if you don't mention the Rui Jingu Bang, so help me Itzba, Italian Spartacus. He's talking about the staff that the Monkey King uses. So, yes, I hope that the Monkey King is in the game, and I hope that is his quest item, right? His actual weapon that he uses. I've done it just for you, Regal. I brought it up. We talked about it. I did it. Let's move on. I don't know enough about it. Like, I had to look it up yesterday because I was like, what the hell is that? Oh, the Monkey King staff. Ah. Jet Li in Forbidden Kingdom is so good. Okay, going into James Hui here. I know it's Hui. Sorry, man. Has the Dragon Emperor, Moon Empress interacted with or acknowledged the existence of other quasi-deities such as Sigmar before? We do not know. Baba Yaga? Sorry, Titus. People always look down the nose as English speakers, like, oh, you uncultured cads from America, you speak with your tongues. So we don't really know anything about the Moon Empress for one, right? We know almost nothing about her, and the Celestial Dragon Emperor has interacted with people through what's it called, emissaries. But we don't know. This is the first time we're hearing that the Celestial Dragon Emperor is the same Celestial Dragon Emperor that it has throughout like eternity. That they're older than the old ones, and that they're like on power levels that are equal to, if not exceeding, stuff like Sigmar and of the such. So we don't really know their relationship with people like Sigmar or Valaya and the other elder gods, or if they even spoke to each other. It seems like during the Great Catastrophe, Cathay was pretty much on its own, separated by the Mountains of Morn and what would have been the giants and ogres of the time. They probably had communication with the lizard men to their south in Koresh, but we don't know much about it yet. Jumping into the next one. Outraged Deer, give me 1 second, I'll jump to you, dude. So Harmless Burke said, do you think that they'll reveal Slaanesh and Nurgle together in a Nurgle versus Slaanesh battle, or how do you think they'll reveal the last two Chaos Gods? And yeah, just like I said, I think they'll definitely do Slaanesh and Nurgle together, and that would give us hints as to how the Great Game would work and how the animosity between the Chaos Gods would operate, because I would definitely think that's going to be a campaign mechanic for the Chaos Demon factions. I would hope 100% that that's coming. So, Outraged Deer, you said also they could make the dragons really incompetent because that's kind of the Vide or vibe. Vibe I get from the Dragon Emperor's kids. Yeah, and that could be it, right? Like you talk about Miao Ying. It talks about her being powerful. It doesn't necessarily talk about her being a competent ruler. In fact, it talks about her not having the ability to bring the lords of Nangao together and how they're always squabbling against her and trying to like disenfranchise her. So that doesn't tell me that it's a supplicant populace. It tells me that certain portions of it kind of rail against the dragons. So I think that there is some kind of dips and hints of what's going on geopolitically with Cathay and stuff like that, especially, right? How the Nangao lords, warlords, kind of work against Miao Ying a lot of the time. Moon Empress, total MILF. Moving into our next one here. Curtis Newman Jr. So Italian Spartacus about Kislev. Considering that Kislev doesn't have as many new units as Cathay does, do you suppose we can possibly get more units of Kislev, even though the unit roster reveal for Kislev was many months ago? So are you saying more units before launch, or are you saying in or after launch? Because I think for sure we're going to get more units after the launch. I would not be surprised if we didn't get something like Ulrika. I would really be surprised if we didn't get like Ulrika. If we didn't get something. Okay, Boris Brekia is not. Oh! Listening to too much goddamn house music, and I'm like, yeah, the legendary Lord Boris Brekia, he's definitely coming into the game. Voltan Utur. So I can't remember what part of fucking Russia he's from. But yeah, he like is stupid strong, and I didn't know much about Russian culture until he like told me a lot about it. And then I got into learning about the Eastern Slavs, and then about the Kievan Rus, and then further on about Romanovs and everything like that. So like he definitely kind of opened my eyes a lot to Russian culture, which I had no idea about. Yes, Katerine does have a brother. There are plenty of other legendary lord possibilities in Kislev that they did not go with, so I would not be surprised if we did not get a further expansion on Kislev units, but I don't know if we'll get it before the game launches. You kind of have to remember too, look at the High Elves. The High Elves did not have... I always use the High Elves because they're the first thing I think of with Warhammer. I'm sorry guys, I know it's kind of exhausting, but it's my favorite faction. And they did not have White Lion Chariots. They did not have White Lions. They did not have Rangers, which is a convention of Total War Warhammer, but they also didn't have Shadow Warriors. They didn't have a lot of the things that make High Elves High Elves. So Kislev, just in that same measurement, doesn't have... They didn't have, what are they called? Handmaidens of Athel Loren. Nope. I got this mixed up the other day, too. Guys, where is Alariel from? Yeah, High Elves are my favorite race, but I can't remember anything. Yeah, sisters, but the handmaidens. But Avalorn, thank you, Avalorn. I'm like Athelorn. I'm like, nope, it's not Athelorn. That's placed in the world roots. Yeah, exactly. Ernesto brings a good point. High Elves started with just Teclis and Tyrion. Look at them now. Is there a Demon Prince model? Yes, there is. So we got 2 more questions. You know what? We're going to answer these 2 questions, and then we'll just jump back into... we'll just strictly just kind of do chat from then on. But Miramasa, let me answer your question because you just donated $10 and asked it here. So thank you very much again for the donation, man. Thank you guys all very much in general today for donations. It helps me out a ton. Obviously, this is my full-time job. So it is always extremely generous, and I really appreciate it. So thank you very, very much, guys. The Muramasa, let me get you here. Do you think the Great Maw would be massive in scale on the campaign map? And is it possible Warpstone will finally be a tradable resource? Could imagine playing as Zhao Ming would be positive with rats. Yeah, I mean, especially if when you and I were talking earlier, you and I were screening about purified Warpstone as a possibility. I think that Warpstone could find its way definitely as some sort of tradable resource, as a unique resource like marble or stone or obsidian like it is in Warhammer 2, right? It's some of the unique resources you can train: pottery, wine, so on and so forth. Elvish wine. But let's take a look at this. You asked, do you think the Great Maw would be massive in scale on the campaign map? Let's take a look together. What's the name of it? Maelstrom. This is not going to give me what I wanted to. Yep, of course it's 40 fucking K. Where's that map that I had up earlier? Aha! What? Is that even on here? You sons of bitches. Okay, Warhammer Fantasy map. Is it not on like any of these maps? Crap ass cartographers is this. Well, to get a sense of the scale of the Great Maw, you'd have to look at the Maelstrom, the part, you know, where what's his name is Noctilus. That part of the ocean, because that's the exit wound of. Yeah, Ernesto just said it. Galleon's graveyard is the opposite side of the Great Maw. So the comet bored itself through the Earth, all exited the Maelstrom. So that on the map is basically the size of the Great Maw, if you want to kind of put it into reference. And maybe that actual hole has gotten smaller over time, so it could have been larger. I'm not a geographerist. I know that's not the name of it, it's geologist, but still.
Thank you for the donation.
That kind of gives you a sense of the scale, at least. It would be a large crater on the map, and they would probably have some sort of similar mechanics to the Maelstrom, right? Like extreme attrition if you approach it, unless you're, say, an ogre or something like that. Whew, man, record me, because that's a badass mechanic right there. Axios, thank you very much, man, because you asked nicely. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that, dude. Really appreciate that. So let me get these last two questions. Knock them out real quick. They're really fast too. And the first one here is, which fantasy book has all the lore in it? So loaded question on that, but there is no one book that comprises all the lore of Warhammer Fantasy, which is intended, of course. But reading the rule books, especially the 8th and 6th edition rule books, is a really good start, because it covers a lot of lore on the sides, and then there's lore for each army in those books, the larger ones. The smaller one for 8th edition was just strictly the rules. The larger tome had pretty much a nice treatise on everything. It tells about the Great Catastrophe. It talks about some of the more major events, like not the Shattering, what the hell, the High Elf Dark Elf War, the War of the Beard. That's right, War of the Beard. Stuff like that. It talks about those big highlight moments, and I think it actually has a timeline it goes through with that. But the best thing to jump into if you want to learn about Warhammer Fantasy are the Gotrek and Felix books. It touches almost every part of the lore, and it gives you a sense for just how the common man lives in the Warhammer Fantasy world. And like I was saying earlier, when it comes to Sundering, thank you. Shattering I like a little bit more, though. It sounds very Destiny 2-ish. But Gotrek and Felix, I think it gives you the best sense for it. Like, you read the first book, and the first book opens up on a road towards a tavern. It's just a fantasy book. Like, you could be reading the Dritsto Erden books and not even know it until someone mentions a Slaneshi cultist, or maybe it's a Zichi cultist in the first book. I can't remember. But that's my point, is that the Warhammer Fantasy setting is not this grim dark. It is very much a fantasy setting. You go into the forests, you're going to find a beastman, an ogre, maybe a wood elf, you know, the stuff that you would find in any fantasy forest. You go into a tavern, there's going to be a band of mercenaries, there's going to be a halfling picking his ass, and a dwarf who's drunk. Like, there's a lot of the tropes of fantasy fill the Warhammer Fantasy universe. Ooh, you heard that pop as my ankle, it felt great. And our last question from the community page. Oh, no, Mac. I would not categorize it as low fantasy at all. It is extremely high fantasy. Low fantasy would be Game of Thrones. What makes something low and high is the presence of fantastical elements and magic. Game of Thrones starts extremely as low fantasy and becomes higher fantasy, but is still very much low fantasy. High fantasy has the presence of races that are not all humanoid or humans, and also the presence of magic and walking skeletons, stuff like that. That makes high fantasy. There's been a weird distinguish lately of high and low, because people will look at stuff like high fantasy it's an entire race of dragons talking to each other. Like, no, that's just still high fantasy, the same way that Forgotten Realms, Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer Fantasy are all high fantasy. You have to remember, fantasy gets its roots from Lord of the Rings. And the first real representation of anything fantasy is really Lord of the Rings. It takes the lore and mythos of a lot of other mythologies, which are considered religion and divine, and brings it into fantastical universe of Lord of the Rings. Then from Lord of the Rings, it branches into two separate sects. Not sects, sects. Into the 60s and 70s, you get Dungeons and Dragons. Then the second real fantastical big universe to come out of any fantasy world, or well, I guess you could argue third because Lord of the Rings is first, is Warhammer. It is why Warhammer has got such a fervent fan base, is because it has been around for a long time. And it colors the perceptions of a lot of other fantasy races and inclinations, because people either learned Dungeons and Dragons or Warhammer or both, you know? And Lord of the Rings kind of created all of it. It's really interesting to look at like the history of fantasy and how that all kind of spans together with it all. Ion, I actually don't know much about Wheel of Time and its placement and all that. I'm talking about like strictly a universe that was created and expanded upon over time, or like kind of gave root to a lot more than what it was. Like Dungeons and Dragons is obviously more than just a game. Wheel of Time is strictly a book, now soon to be a series. Let me look when Wheel of Time was made. $1990 is when it was published, so that would be after Warhammer Fantasy. So I don't have a good answer for you there. Okay. Rowinger. 200 Norwegian kronu from you, sir. Thank you very much. Do you think we will see more of the Chaos Realm on the next faction reveal? I hope so. What's interesting is with Khorne. Well, no, we already know we're going to the Great Bastion. I was saying maybe we'll go to the Sorcerer's Palace or whatever the hell it's called for Tzeentch. So I was thinking, because when you look at the Khorne Kislev trailer, it all takes place in Kislev, but then the actual gameplay and battle stuff that we played was all at the Brass Citadel. So I didn't know if they'd take the same notes for Tzeentch and Cathay, but we already know we're going to hear about Great Bastion, so never mind. $1986? Yeah, 1986 is when Fantasy starts. 1988 or 87 is when the first Rogue Trader was put out, is when 40K starts. Actually, no, Fantasy I thought was like 84. I'm getting to the bottom of this, god damn it. 1983. 1983. Dude, how crazy is this? Look at this, look at this, look at this. Years active. 19. It's hard to believe 6 years ago we lost Warhammer Fantasy. I will remember you. Falcon, what's up, dude? Do we know the voice actor for the Dragon Lady? We don't, my man. I don't, at least. Big Hat Schwartz for sure, bro. What? It's hard to believe that it was 6 years ago because it feels like it was longer, to be honest. Okay, the very last question here. Let me mark it down. Do you think CA will use Bestial Keeper of Secret model for the Forge world? I don't know what this is, and we're going to look it up together. I saw this question and did not know what it was. ISO skin. Like, I know who the Keeper of Secrets is, but I don't know the Bestial Keeper of Secrets. Maybe this is it? What? Fine. Oh god. Make sure it's Total War Warhammer or else get demonetized by fucking YouTube. We heard you painted something out. I don't know who the Bestial Keeper of Secrets is here. Like, who you're saying the Bestial... Oh, I think it might be this one. Whoa! That is a cyber tit. That's a lot of boobs. Well, here we go. I think this is what he means. And I don't think that that's what we'll be getting at all. I think that we'll be getting... And I've done this comparison before. Let's go to Games Workshop's website. Okay, web store. Let's go to Keeper of Secrets. And you probably, if you've been watching along a lot of the time on this, you'll know I've already made this comparison. YouTube.com Warhammer 3 trailer. Okay. Let me queue it up here and get into the right spot. Okay, so here is the new Keeper of Secrets. Sorry. This is the new Keeper of Secrets. This is what the Keeper of Secrets looks like now. And honestly, the new Slanesh range is bad fucking ass. I love it. So new Keeper of Secrets. You see, look here especially. In fact, there was this guy. I think it's this one. Looks a little bit more like the trailer. So that kind of motif here. This motif. It's a face. And jump over to here. Doing all of this. So here is the Keeper of Secrets in the trailer. It's the same exact style of head and everything. So I think that's the Keeper of Secrets we're gonna expect in Total War Warhammer 3. Hey, Outraged Deer. Let me take a look at what you just did right there, man. Streamlabs. Did I ever answer that one question that you asked? Did I skate over it? We're gonna figure that out together. And guys, again, thank you very much for all your donations here today. They have been amazing. Thank you for sitting through all this. We still got some more time. We're still going to have some fun. I'm going to answer questions now strictly from the audience. You said, do you think that Games Workshop would ever do a split timeline so we could have Fantasy back but keep Age of Sigmar? That's what they're doing right now. That's what the old world is. The old world is basically them splitting the timeline up. We got 251 of you bros watching here today too. Please do make sure you're liking the stream. Like, I know it's annoying to hear like content creators go, make sure you like and subscribe, but it's stupid how much it helps us. It's annoying how much it helps me. I don't like to say it, but it actually does help. I did cover the Bannerlord update. I did the 1.6.3 patch. And two, like I've said before, if you guys want to give... God damn, man. What's on here? If you want to jump on this sneak energy train, which I can't ever get off of ever again, I don't think, please make sure you use the creator code SPARTY at checkout. It does help me out a ton as well. But like, I love that. I maybe drink too much sneak. It's a fact, and I'm okay with it. But that sounds like, oh, this is an overwhelming endorsement. The reason I like it is because it's BCAAs, no sugar, and caffeine. That is it. There's no like proprietary blend like in a lot of other like like in a lot of other like energy drinks, which I hate. And as someone who's kind of a health nut, I'm okay with it. I'm cool. Should I be drinking caffeine in the gratuitous amounts? No. But I'll be honest, I really only drink about a half or a quarter scoop of 175 milligrams. Like a half scoop, that's like nothing. That is pretty much a cup of coffee.
I've only begun.
Outrage, damn man, let me read. I thought Old World was prequel. It's going to be prequel, but they want to use it to jump into different parts of the timeline of Warhammer Fantasy, and they're probably just going to have a mode that's called Free Battle Mode, where you can use all your Warhammer Fantasy models and fight in whatever way you want with new representations of their rules. I bet you that's exactly what's going to happen. Oh, I drink water, man. So this is 60 ounces. That's 1.7 liters for those of you that are on the better system. And I drink 4 of these a day. So I drink plenty of water. Falcon ripping in here with a 500 rubles? It's rubles, right? Thank you very much, dude. Falcon has taught me much in the ways of Warhammer 2 multiplayer.
Thank you for the donation.
And you shall again in Warhammer 3, my bro. Thank you very much, Falcon. And go check out Falcon's channel, guys. If you haven't, if you don't know who Falcon is, he's a multi-time winner of the what's it called? The Ever Chosen Invitational. He has his own YouTube channel where he does like really cool breakdowns of multiplayer aspects of Total War Warhammer. So please go check out the Big Daddy himself, Falcon. He's got plenty of information. He taught me a lot of what I know about multiplayer in Total War Warhammer 2. So if you want to break into multiplayer, he is a great resource. Neo Genesis, fuck you. If you're so healthy, why'd all your hair fall out? So I used to weigh 308 pounds. And I lost 50 or 60 pounds of it in between my junior and senior year of high school. Then I got Guillain-Barré syndrome and went paralyzed in my arms and legs. And from there, I like those two things in conjunction, plus my dad is bald too. And so is my uncle. And so is his dad. So all that in conjunction, just my hair started shooting off, dude. I started balding when I was 22 or so. Maybe 21, really. I wore hats until I was 25 or 26. Then I buzzed my head. I got a little drunk and buzzed my head after a breakup. Then after that, my last boss in my corporate setting convinced me to grow a beard and shave my head. Or bick my head. Oh, another donation here from Ollie. Do you think we will get other terracotta units, maybe monsters infantry size or elite small size like Death Guard? Yeah, 100%. 100% I want that. Do I think we'll get it? I don't know. But I really want to see, just like you said, like either Depth Guard size, as in a smaller humanoid-sized unit, or a monstrous infantry-style unit like Crypt Horrors in size, like 11, 12 unit, big unit. I really, really, really want that. Tom, everyone on my mom's side, the same thing. Who's scarier, Nagash or Sauron? I'd say Sauron, because it's like I've never seen an actual representation of Nagash, really, right? But like Sauron, you've seen in so many different ways, and he seems so omnipotent versus Nagash, who's like, I've been thwarted. Like he just seems a lot more of that.
Thank you for the donation.
One sec, guys. Let me get some of these here going. That boy Canman, thank you very much, by the way, brother, for the $5 donation. CA confirms support for Warhammer 3 for years to come. What are your speculations of the type of expansions or factions we can see added? Well, let's take a look at what we have added, faction-wise, from Warhammer 2. We just got 2, right? We just got the Vampire Coast and the Tomb Kings. So I think we'll see the early adopter bonus. That's either going to be Ogres or Chaos Dwarfs. Then whichever one we didn't get as the early adopter bonus, we'll then get. My guess is it's going to be Ogre Kingdoms, and then it'll be Chaos Dwarfs. And then at that third faction, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Southern Realms, Telia, Stalia, or Dogs of War. Just one of those. I would love to see an Ind, a Koresh, an Apone, Elithis, or something of the sort, but realistically, it might be something like that. And if we're talking about years to come, because, dude, Total War Warhammer 2 came out in like 2015, 2016? We've been doing this for a long time. Warhammer 2 came out in 2017. God, I'm full of crack cocaine. So, still, that's a long life cycle. And Rome 2 is still getting updates and shit here and there. So, we'll get stuff for a long time for Warhammer 3. I'm sure of it. Max says, my previous question in chat. I don't see your question, my dude. Oh, are you worried that after Warhammer 3 comes out, they continue to add more and more great content? Lower mid-tier computer won't be able to keep up with so much content over 3 huge games. I'm not worried about that because I have a super machine. So I honestly have not worried about any kind of tech spec in years, and that's probably like a little selfish of me. So, to be honest, with computer component parts getting cheaper for the exception of graphics cards, I don't think that that's much of a concern anymore. And with the bottlenecking of the game not being graphics related, being processor related, I think it's easier to rise to the recommendation or expectations of your computer for Warhammer 3 than it is most games. Most games say, yeah, you know, you can have a middling amount of RAM, a decent processor, but you need a GTX 5500K with this 20 million megs of RAM. Like, a lot of games bottleneck in the GPU, which is not the case for Total War. So I think it's easier to kind of rise to that occasion. When do you think we'll get Nagash and his faction in Game 3 lifespan? You know what? That's kind of going off what Dat Boy Canman said, or asked. That probably would be one of the things we could get. My mom's bald too. Yeah, dude, just fucking... is an Undead Legion faction with big old Nagy up top. Good old Nagy Gash. But where do I think? Probably, I would say maybe after year 1, I would assume. They're not going to dip much into that, I don't think, until after the Warhammer 3. Like, look at Warhammer 2. Warhammer 2 didn't dip back into Warhammer 1 factions until Hunter and the Beast. Is that the first one? Like, in a DLC, I mean. Let me see. I got to see Warhammer 2 DLC list. Just so I can see, like, chronologically when they came out. No, this is the best of list. Eat my dick. Unnecessarily violent for me. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Okay, Blood for the Blood God, Prophet and the Warlock. Yeah, the first one was Hunter and the Beast in 2019. That came out 2 years after launch, almost to the day. So I'd say probably towards the end of 2 years. I have a 3080, and it is great. Nagy Gash was fine. Andrew, no! I've created this monster, Nagy Gash. That was, oh my god, I can't believe I did that. I didn't even think of that. That's probably the worst euphemism for vagina. That an axe wound. Yeah, but Crisps, they didn't get a DLC. This is talking about a DLC. The Dwarfs got a rework before all of them. Whoa, dude. What's your view on keeps? Anybody who uses it, maybe. Well, what do you mean by that, Aquazar? I want there to be some crazy awesome siege mechanics. Indie Pride just released a video on siege mechanics. It's probably shit because it's Indie Pride, but it's also probably pretty damn good. He's my friend, and I hate him. But he makes good stuff. But fuck him. He's a cool guy. He can go to hell. But I invited him to my birthday party for sure. What do you think the big difference between the legendary lords of Cathay combat-wise? Will Zhao be able to use some alchemy spells when in dragon form? I think it depends on what alchemy is going to be. Is it going to be its own kind of lore of magic style, or will it be all activatable abilities, much like the white, what's it called, the white deckhand white Vampire Coast, the Vampire Coast dude. What am I thinking of? Gunnery white. If it's like that, right, where he's got a bunch of stuff he can throw and concoctions and shit like that, I think that'll be kind of different. But we don't, like, yeah, we know that in dragon form, they seem to be super strong combatants, but in human form, they don't seem to be strong combatants. So I'm curious to see if we'll have one of the siblings be a strong combatant in both. So I think that's going to be the determining factor, pal. Maybe Zhao Ming is got really strong abilities in his human form, but a strong combatant in dragon form. And maybe Miao Ying has the lore of yin or yang that she can use in human form, but in dragon form she's a strong combatant. I think that might be the way they do it. I agree with you, Android. I hope it's more abilities. I don't want alchemy to be a lore per se. Because it talks about them in in human form being good casters and in dragon form being strong combatants. So I think it might follow that kind of blueprint. Dude, the new rune magic is sick, Andrew. I love it. Well, is she more skilled in magic than Zhao, or just more skilled than Zhao? That's like kind of the question. Guys, any more questions you want to ask, please go and fire away. Just make sure you mention @Italian Spartacus so I can see the question easier. It makes it a lot easier for me to answer. You think the inner politics and downs of Cathay should function like the Elector Counts interact with Emperor and how the princes interact with the Phoenix King? I don't know, but it kind of hints towards that being a possibility with Nangao and Miao Ying Glam. And I think the whole intrigue and court mechanic for High Elves is rubbish. It's just garbage. It's not good. It got better with the ability to get more influence faster. You can actually use it, but I think it's just it doesn't have legs under it. The Elector Count system feels better, but you still have like kind of a ransom attached to it where, okay, every couple of turns you have a dilemma where you can move you can either confederate or move someone's opinion up and down. Like, it doesn't really have a lot going for it, but it is a stronger mechanic than Intrigue and Court. So maybe third time's a charm and they actually get a good, really cool, like, inner politicking going on. Does Miao Ying lift? Probably, like, snatches body weight for sure. Keep the hair lotion. I mean, we were on the balding tangent. I do use shampoo. I don't know if that surprises anyone, but bald people should be using shampoo. There's a pH balance is different on your face than it is to your body, so you should not be putting body wash on your head. In fact, don't even use body wash. Use bar soap. But let it be known, I'm not a dermatologist. I'm a guy who makes YouTube videos. Let that be known. How do you think Tzeentch's faction will match up with the other Chaos factions? Do you think they'll be able to contend with the other ranged factions? It's a good question because we know that clearly there seems to be some ranged mechanics attached to Tzeentch and its demons. And that was the case too in tabletop. So I think it's going to kind of come down to how those ranged units work. Are they long range? Are they mid range or short? And are their abilities activatable, or are they like, hey, these guys can just constantly spit fire out the whole time? So it'll be interesting to see how that works, because it seems like for the most part, looking at Khorne, its mortal units are kind of the staple, and its demon units kind of add punch to it to complement its mortal units. So that kind of mindset, the mortal units would hold the line while the range units of Tzeentch fire into stuff. So it depends on how they make those range units. All right, Hugh, thanks very much for jumping in, man. Always good to see you, brother. Wasn't the lands north of the Great Bastion supposed to be steppes with hobgoblins, hungs, kurgans instead of chaos wastes? It is chaos wastes, Snape, but it includes hungs, kurgans, and hobgoblins. No, Lord Zemnis, he did not and should not have his own lore of magic as it relates to Nagash. What kind of new resources for trade do you think we'll see with Cathay, Kislev, and the other new or possible factions? Probably some sort of like ice, like, oh, ice crystals that do not melt in the sun. Yes, the Kislev shall trade them. And Cathay could probably have something related to jade or purified warpstone, like I was saying earlier, or something of that sort. How do you think they will play? They seem to be a combination of dwarfs and Tomb King. Will they be bad with cavalry or similar to an Empire of Sigmar 2.0? I can see them being a dwarf Tomb King combination. What I've said before is there doesn't seem to be a lot of fast attack elements of Cathay. It seems to be kind of like a hold the line Bastion style army with, of course, we see the Limsa Lamosa is a city in Final Fantasy. It is not the creatures that are ridden in the trailer. The Longma. God damn, man. We saw the Longma riders, so I assume we'll have little bits of mobile portions, and we saw from the artwork there was some form of cavalry, but it's hard to say how much mobility Cathay has just yet. And it looks like it's like a heavy cav, so maybe a speed of like 76 versus like the 90 speed of faster skirmisher style cav. That's a good, Chris. That's a cool notion. Jade could be purified warpstone in Total War Warhammer. That'd be a really cool way to approach it. Like, okay, hey, we've made jade, but what it is really is purified warpstone. It retains its color, but it no longer has the like volatility of warpstone. That's a really cool idea, Chris. They need a halfling DLC. You're goddamn right they do, Travers. Yeah, Glam's made a good point. I doubt they have much light cav. Well, they might have like peasant cav forces. Because it talks about how, in one of the blogs, the peasants will do what's needed, even if it includes mounting horses and so on and so forth. But I definitely see low to zero missile cav. Maybe missile cav with those like mortar guns they had, but zero chariots. I think zero chariots is a really strong claim. It's whacking everything over here. But the problem is that you need to, like, I've made this statement before, and I shall make it yet again. Total War Warhammer is different than the tabletop. It cannot follow the rules of tabletop for the simple reason that the board in tabletop limited the playability of your armies. In Total War Warhammer, that limitation is not there. If you want to fully surround a dwarf army, you are more than capable of doing so. You could not do that in the tabletop. You were relegated to a 4x8 board, and typically you could span across the entire board with a dwarf army or any other army that you didn't want to move with. That's why skirmisher units were so important, because you could then place them at one of the deployment zones on the left and right or the back side and snipe out artillery quickly. Skirmish units were killed really fast. You use them either to screen out charges or to kill artillery or bog down a range unit. That's what you use them for. Then they died after that. So, as a result, in Total War Warhammer, almost everything needs to have some sort of answer to something. It's why the Wood Elves, which are predominantly archer-based race, ranged-based faction. Might be a better way to say that. Archer-based race sounds stupid. But ranged faction, they have to have something to counter all the fast cav elements. So now they get Glade Knights, right? Fast cav, melee that can just pin stuff down. So you have to start having answers to that. And it's why I think the dwarfs need a definite solid answer to stuff like the Dread Saurian, to things that might come with Cathay, like the big Guan Yu swinging terracotta titans. Like, what the fuck, dude? What is gonna rip down your whole entire force? To Zotes, stuff like that. Like, they need these bigger things. So I think stuff like Shard Golems or Runic Golems, Shard Dragons, Runic Golems, Runic Guardians are ways to give those answers. And yes, it does start to make every army feel more homogenous, but you don't want to choose the dwarfs or another faction because you like that faction and then find that you just don't have an answer to all these threats that are coming at you from all these different angles because, hey, we want to stay true to the tabletop. Sorry, we're just not going to do it. You know, that's why chariots rip through dwarfs in Total War Warhammer, but in tabletop, that just wasn't the case. Cannons could destroy chariots so quickly. Their thunderers could take them out in like one turn of shooting. So you have to consider that in the Total War sphere, it changes the rules for the game. In tabletop, if you fielded a dragon against dwarves, the thing could get killed. You could, I think it was, if you double the toughness, you could kill it outright or something, or I can't remember the rule. I've gone over this with Sotek before, but dragons could be gibbed in tabletop 8th edition. And it's why they were like, okay, if you want to play competitively, you probably won't use the dragon. So rather than limiting people's forces by saying, hey, you can't really use these things because they're not going to really be good, you have to start giving them more tools to access and do more things with their army, or else they're just gonna, everything's gonna be end up being like cookie cutter flavor of the month armies. Just say no to Shard Dragons. Yeah, that's a good point too, Android Poetry. They struggle with things like Giselles due to their mobility. Gyrocopters just don't get it done. You're right, because gyrocopters are pretty flimsy. They can get killed by the Giselles, especially the Regiment of Renown that's got snipe and stays hidden. So they can't shut down long-range things if their long-range stuff has been shut down, like cannons or grudge throwers. So they don't have the mobility to go get out there and like harass it and keep pressure on it and stuff like that. That's a good point, Bortukali, and good to see you, Bortu. He says that need of dwarfs might be answered with the Dogs of War instead of new units for them. And I actually would be super down with that. I think that'd be really cool. Like getting Asarniel the Dragon Lord to just swoop down with the dwarf army. Actually, Asarniel can't fight with the dwarfs. Well, Total War could make it happen. But in the way 6th edition worked, the Dogs of War Codex army book would tell you, okay, Asarniel the Dragon Lord can be fielded in these armies. And in the actual army book, it said you can have Dogs of War of this race for this faction. Does Cathay get Giselles? Darren, I'm glad you asked, because it looks like they do. You want to see? Let's see together. Let me bring up my document. Let's take a look at this screenshot, and we'll pick it apart. Give me one sec, Rocky Mountain Dew. That was close. Almost started not playing a Total War song, which could have got me demonetized. All right. That's this picture. So if we look at where I am, basically what I'm trying to say. There we go. Okay. I don't know who this is, by the way. But these are definitely a Giselle unit. Crane Gunners. Are they called Crane Gunners? Or is that just the name of the Crane Gunners on these? Oh, on these. That's not the Crane Gunner one. Nope, not in this picture, I guess. But yeah, these are the Giselles. Yeah, I saw this guy. This could be a Celestial Dragon Monk. I mean, oh, what is this? I mean, this could be yin and yang. This looks like a Tzeentchian sorcerer because of this little guy right here. This little staff tip looks like a Tzeentchian thing that goes like this. It goes like out, curves in, like almost like an hourglass. I mean, it could be two different types, but I bet you it's just different unit varieties. Rocky Mountain said, how do you think they will implement the Great Bastion? Will it be like the mountains of Ulthuan with a few actual gates that armies can go through, or what? I bet you it'd be like that, Rocky. I think that's a pretty good assessment. I think that's also easiest to do and easiest to kind of consume. For a little hinty poo. And this could be the Alchemy Lord. Well, remember, we know Yin and Yang. And we saw one of the lores with the girl using like those like steel ribbons, like shooting out from the ground and everything. This might be the opposite. Are Demon Princes a must or more of a want than necessary? I think they're a must. I think you can't have the factions without Demon Princes. Is it too early to speculate on Chaos Dwarf roster? I don't think so, Jay. I'm going to do a video on it. Indy did a video on it like a year ago. So it looks too like these are the Elite Guard, and here's these guys too. They look like both the different types of units. Or maybe they're not. Larry McFart here dropping a $15 bombaroo on me saying dwarves need the Thunder Barge, Runic Golems, and Armored Ram Cav like in Lord of the Rings. And do you think that Ogre Kingdoms are going to be introduced like Bretonnia and then have Chaos Dwarves as the pre-order? No, I think that they'll have Ogre Kingdoms as the pre-order. That's my assessment. There's so much going with the roster that I don't think that they'll do that. Castro of Zinch? Yeah, this I think is Castro of Zinch. There.
Thank you for the donation.
Thank you very much, Larry. Guys, and again, thank you very much. Like, you guys have been so generous today, so thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I cannot say enough how much I appreciate it. It is so generous, and it is awesome, guys. I'm honestly most stoked for Chaos Dwarves. I really want to play Chaos Dwarves. But here's something cool someone has to have said this on the Reddit, right? That's Cathay and Cavalry right there. How did I not see this? This has been on the Reddit, right? I don't check the Reddit as much as I used to. When I had a corporate job, I checked it all the time. But I don't nowadays. That's 1000% the Cav. The Cav. Okay, good, it has. I'm like, it has to. Someone has to have pointed this out. I can't have pioneered spotting this. God, my throat is fucked now. Talk so much during these that it dries my throat out. Kobel Yu is here. Guys, Kobel Yu is a terrible artist. He's never drawn anything. You guys want to see, hey, here's some pictures that I drew. Here's some pictures that I drew that you guys will probably like. I drew all this. This is all me. It is not Kobel Yu. Kobel Yu is my pen name. It's my pen name. This is so if you guys did not know, this is Kobel Yu, who drew pretty much a lot of the stuff that we have for Cathay leading up to this reveal. It's all the images that I used for my Cathay army list. He's also one of the artists, along with Ruo Yu, that helps draw all the stuff for the Koresh fan project. So just, and you can see a lot of this used. Like, this matches the look of a lot of those more elite style units, right? So it's really cool to kind of see that they kind of took some, and it's like, I know that's not a Kobel Yu convention, right? Like, that is also something that we get from, hey, look, take a look, Manchu, Asian dynasties. Like, it is a historical convention that Kobel Yu has brought into like a Cathayan light. And it's a design note that, and you can see too, we were talking about the mountain armor, right? Well, here's the mountain armor kind of like replicated across, and this is almost like exactly that historical reference we were looking at. But here it is replicated here that we also see in the Cathayan forces. So it's really, really, really cool to see a lot of these design choices mesh together. Thank you, Kobel Yu. Guys, go check out Kobel Yu's art station if you haven't. And look at this guy too, man. This smooth looking Canadian fuck. What you asked though, what unit from the old Cathay lore currently missing from the roster that you are most excited to see added? Well, I was actually just talking about this. I really want to see the beast models, like stuff like this, like the Stone Guardians. I really want to see this. And the ogres. I really want to see ogre sword masters or single horned ogres. His dragon horse, Qilin. I hope we get Qilin too. I definitely hope we get Qilin. Even if we don't get it as a unit, if it's a mount. Like, hey, you can have a horse, you can have a Longma, then a Qilin, then, well, you can't have a dragon because we don't ride dragons in Cathay. I also love this, like the flying guillotine. Because we definitely have to have some take on assassins for... I actually have that up, right? I couldn't remember if I had the display thing on. Assassins for Cathay. It's such a huge portion of like the backstory of a lot of other locations, so it needs to kind of be there. Yeah, I did not expect that either. Titus Fawn Doom. Horses with wings from the trailer. Kirin's. Not true. Kirin is a Japanese version of the Qilin. Longma is a different beast altogether. I was corrected on this. Although I wish they had taken... This is Kobold Yu's Brass Titan. I want that instead. The new guy, the guy's cool. The Guan Yu Titans are cool. But look at that guy. The coolest thing is like the smokestacks coming out of the dragon heads. Like, that's so sick. Sorry, guys. My voice is like getting hoarser and hoarser. Is that the Ghidorah in the bottom left image? Where?
Thank you for the donation.
Villa? This guy? Shenron? Take a look at Kobold's Monkey King too. Wabam! Yeah, I like the Guandao. I do like the Guandao too. I'm just saying, the Brass Titan's pretty cool. Thank you again, Larry McFart, dropping another donation on me. And here's some of the artwork he's been making too for the Koresh fan project. You'll probably see some of it covered on the channel, but he has amazing artwork that he's done for this. And I hope Games Workshop and Creative Assembly like see this stuff and go, oh, maybe we could do correct. Like, look at that. That is so cool. Like, such an awesome take. Jade Blooded here. Jade Revenant's kind of like the Grave Guard. Zombie guards. I love it. I love it. Show me the artwork. Show me that artwork. Didn't they hint at Koresh and Nippon? They kind of did, Ryan, when they were doing a Facebook post. They said, "Whoa, we don't know who we could go into in the south, or yeah, in the eastern portions of the world." So, okay, all right. Ominous Games Workshop. You are not wrong, Bortacali. I do need to get lemon tea with honey. All right, guys, we got about 20, 30 more minutes. Ask some more questions. I'm going to go pee real quick because I'm pounding water over here. It gives my voice a second to kind of relax too, so give me just 1 sec. I'll be right back. Okay. What would you like to see for game mechanics in the Tzeentch campaign that differentiate themselves from the other Chaos Gods? Something that has to do with manipulation. Like, I definitely want to see more manipulative stuff from the Chaos Gods. I think right now, stuff with... We don't really know much about Khorne's campaign mechanics. We know about his battle mechanics, kind of. But I want Tzeentch to have an ability that has a lot of manipulation with public order or causing true rebellions. Like, I don't want the intrigue in court mechanic where I go, yeah, I can give you like minus 15 opinion to each other. Like, no, I want it to actually have an actual effect on the campaign map. You know, Matthias, I think that they're waiting for something. I think they want to do all of it at one kind of go where, yeah, hey, here's a little bit about this mechanic. Here's a little bit about this mechanic. I bet you when we get to more into the great game, I think we'll hear more about their mechanics. I think they've deliberately held that close to the chest because they're keeping it more battle-oriented and less campaign-oriented until we get to, okay, now we'll talk just about chaos in the next one, I bet. I bet that's the way it's going to be. Yeah, something like Deathmaster's missions. Yeah, where it actually affects the faction and not just like a middling, oh, we'll take this minus to your public opinion. Like, fuck off. Do you think they will continue using the rights system they use in Warhammer 2 and 3 added to every faction down the road? SSMCS, hopefully. I actually really like the rights system. I think it's a very similar, or a very simple mechanic that does a lot of cool stuff, and it's a cool way to kind of break the rules every so often, which I think, in my opinion, good mechanics revolve around strong core mechanics, and good mechanics break core mechanics at the cost of something, right? So take a look at like a core mechanic where, okay, when you think about like a board game, you can only move 6 inches. Well, my faction's mechanic is that we can all move 7 inches. Okay, well that makes you what makes you unique. Or hey, you know, this mechanic over here for my faction is everyone's toughness is 4. Well, my toughness is 5 for this faction. They need to have, that's why I like rights, is because they're a way to kind of break the rules really fast, give you a little bonus, but it costs you resources. I really like that. What mechanics do you think the Great Bastion will have? Will it just be a large, unique settlement? I hope that so this kind of stems into sieges, and I hope that there is modular portions of sieges, much in the same way that we saw with the Brass Citadel, right? Okay, I can erect walls here, or bonus, or things that tar pit, or things that I can shoot down from, whatever it is. Or I can make 1 of 4 towers. I want the Great Bastion to have modular hard points that you construct on the campaign map, so when it comes into the actual battle map, they're there. I want that to be a layered portion of sieges where you have control over what kind of siege fight you're going to fight by building it in on the campaign level. Then when you fight on the battle level, it's there present for you. Hunter and Beast patch should have put rights in the world factions. You know what? I'd be cool with that being like an end of the year FLC. Like, hey, here's our like call it the final patch. Call it the end times. Ha ha ha. The final patch for Warhammer 2, because we know another patch is coming because they've got the cavalry beta that they're working on, and just add rights to all the old factions. Done. Do you think the Dragon Emperor and the Moon Empress will have a special mechanic for Cathay? If so, what do you think that will be about? Well, Pel, since there's so much like animosity between the children of the Dragon Emperor, I could see them having something similar to Priam's heir, where they're all vying to disenfranchise one another while raising their own name in their father's eyes. I could see something like that. Man, the mutation sprue on the Chaos Square was my favorite part back in the day. Dude, I remember. I still have all those models. Yeah, scaling the actual wall of the Bastion would be near impossible. We need to attack points on the map. I agree with you, Glam. Warriors of Tzeentch. What do you mean, that guy, you know? Like, as far as, like, people's, like, thing? Yeah, like in Troy, Matthias, yes. I don't think it'll be just like that mechanic, but I could see it having something of the sort. where they're squabbling with each other, because it seems to be that is a repeating portion of the lore so far with Cathay. Are we talking about this picture? Fish, right? Bring it up. What the fuck, man? Come on. Okay. So we talking about this picture? Like these guys? Looking kind of boring? I think, honestly, dude, I think they're placeholders. They don't look... They don't look like anything other than placeholders. And I don't know if the corn units glow outside of the brass citadel. I've only seen them in the brass citadel. We've all only seen them in the brass citadel. Maybe the corn unit's eyes don't glow, but there is very little Tzeentchian stuff on these models. That's the kind of thing that I'm thinking about. These look more like holdover models, placeholder models, than the real deal. Let's bring up the... Hi. Okay, so God, look at that blue and purple going hog wild. Let's find it. These guys do have glowing eyes. Right there, kind of glows a little bit. You guys saw it. You saw it. I know you did. Aha! Aha! There we go. So, I mean, there is some evidence of glowing eyes right there. We can't see what else is on this unit, though. And the Tzeentchian ones, I want them to have a lot of Tzeentchian Tzeentchi stuff. And I think that everyone does want that, right? So, let me see if I can... Warhammer Tzeentch. It'd be funny if this was like Pornhub or something like that right there. Dude, Indie Pride and I both love this one picture. I'm looking for it. This one. It's like our favorite picture of these guys. Like that's the kind of look I want. It's very ornate looking armor. To be honest though, that was like kind of... Oh, what do I do? This is a little bit more common fare. Like that's what you saw on the tabletop. For some guy running like, oh, it's my Tzeentch units. Okay. So... I hope that they have cool custom looking models. I just don't want them to be... I just want them to look cool. I just want them to look cool. But I mean, it looks like it's it looks more like a placeholder model than an actual one. What about the Forsaken? Are their models old? What do you mean, Titus? I hope that with the addition of the buildable things in sieges, I hope they enable the attacker or rally additional reinforcements just for the siege that while they prep for attack. I mean, Larry, that'd be really sick. I'd also like to keep battles. I'd like for sieges to have multiple layers and have a little bit more going for them. Which one? Let's be real, they're only placeholders because everyone got mad. If we didn't say anything, they would have left it at that. They still will. Scarshio, I don't really understand what you're saying there, man. So, are you saying that because we're all saying something, they're going to change it? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, too. It can also be very easily modded. I don't think that's the case. And I'm not criticizing their precious CA. I'm just saying that it looks like a placeholder model, and less of them going, that's a Tzeentch model. It doesn't look in anything like a Tzeentch anything. So, and because I don't know anything about it yet, I'm just going to hold judgment. I'm looking at Cathay. I don't really give a shit about Tzeentch yet until I get more Tzeentch stuff. Cat girls from Nippon. No thanks, man. Get those cat Neko away from me. Mighty Mass. Have a good one, man. Mighty Mabs. Chaos Hounds are still on the Khorne roster, not placeholder. What do you mean by that? What do you? Because you're talking about Khorne Hounds, is what it sounds like, versus Chaos Hounds. When the Hounds of Khorne, like the cool looking ones, are on the roster, and there's also Khorne Chaos Hounds, which are two different units, which are both on the roster. My immature brother always lighting his farts. Yeah, I'd light my farts on fire, man. Did he say if he thinks that Eshin will be moved to somewhere within Cathay proper, the Warpstone Desert, or stay where it is? Oh, okay. I was just trying to make heads or tails what you're saying, brother. I don't think they'll move Eshin there. I would not be surprised if they did not move like Eshin as a unit around there, that you would, or Clan Eshin as a inhabiting one of the ruins or something like that around there for sure. I don't know if we'll have a ton of ruins though in Cathay. That'll be an interesting thing to see. Remember when Warhammer 2's map first came out? Let me see if I can get this. Warhammer 2 map. Let me see if I can get just the OG Warhammer 2 map. Yeah, oh fuck, here it is. Well, fuck, hey, here it is. So, and this includes the Skaven. Good. Here's the OG map. You might remember this. I don't think it's gonna look. I mean, I don't think. Warpstone Desert, you say? Gracie or Thankful, you say? Look at this. There are so many. There's so many lords that start over here, right? Now the Vampire Coast has got its lords. The Tarantula Coast has been reduced in size. You've got Lokir down here. You've got way more Lizardmen over here now. Like, a lot of this has become populated. These ruins, especially like over here, right? Like, you've got Tarox that starts like right there. So yeah, Tarox is right here. You got the Wood Elves over here now and stuff like that. So I don't think we're going to be seeing as much ruins in Cathay. I think we'll see a lot of ruins, though, in the Darklands, because the Darklands is home to a ton of Skaven. Victus Clan Nest or something? Well, when I don't really think we'd see a Clan Nest in Cathay. They might, though. They still might do something, because in the older lore, Cathay has an Undercity. Yeah, ask a cat about yin being male energy and yang being female energy. So he's referring to this. So, but it's worth noting though, ask a cat. Yin is male energy, yang is female energy. If we're saying the Black Tortoise of the North, which is Miao Ying, that is old yin. So I think it's probably two brothers and two sisters. And I think that it'll be the oldest sister is Miao Ying. We don't know where. I'm sorry, Miao Ying. We don't know where Zhao Ming sits on the scale of age. In mountains in the ruins in the Mountains of Morn for sure. He did have a trade agreement with Monkey King had a trade agreement with Eshin, yes. But we don't know if the Monkey King's even going to be in the game. We just know that he existed and he's no longer there. And that happened during the time of Great War with Chaos or the Three Emperors? I can't remember. It's 27 something. You think Warhammer 3 is coming in April of 2022? I don't think that's a far off guess at all. What type of characters South and East have? Here, Titus. I'm covering that a lot tomorrow. I'm covering that a lot in my video tomorrow. So I think... No! I think South... My boys! I think South will be red. I think it'll be tempestuous. I think it'll have a lot to do with the Kongming fire lanterns. Because they say a vermilion warbird is what powers what gives it lift. So I think that fire, red, and South. And that could be Monkey King, because he fled to the south. So that could be the Monkey King's like domain. Who knows? But it could be a Lu Bu style character that is more martial oriented. And then Azure Dragon is wood, green, and east. And we know that east is the portion of the Cathay that borders on the sea. We know the Jade Fleet exists. Fleets are made of wood, green, fleet, jade, east. All makes sense, and that could be some sort of kind of strategist style character as well. We don't really know. Kongming is the courtesy name of Zhuge Liang. I think Southern would be female. I think Southern would be male, and let's look at this. And Eastern would be female. I think that's a pretty good assessment. Yeah, and the Warhammer 3 dragon is white. And metal, because he's associated with alchemy. Makes sense. White, west. So this all tracks. It makes a lot of sense. You've got the representation here. 4 symbols. Nah. Lu Bu for Southern. Eastern wouldn't make sense. Eastern wouldn't make sense. Southern because it's like, fire, and red. Lu Bu was colored red. All right, Akbizar, have a good one, man. Yeah, we're gonna start wrapping things up here, guys. So if you have any other questions, now is the time to ask and be answered. For those that are feeling like they're going to jump out right now, again, let me just give like a quick thank you to a lot of people that have donated so far. We've had a lot of donations, so thank you all very, very much. Like I've said before, this is my full-time job, and I can't tell you how much it helps. And also, too, you can head on over to sneakenergy.com, use that creator code SPARTY at checkout to help support the channel. You can pre-order Total War Warhammer 3 on my Nexus page if you want. Plenty of ways to help support. But as always, guys, thank you so much. But let's keep going. We'll do about like 5-10 more minutes. Are there any wood elves that far over? The world routes, they've got like a little exit point north of the Dragon Isles, which would be the very southern portion of the Darklands, southeast of Pigbarter. How big the province of Cathay itself going to be? No idea, boss. I would imagine pretty large. Do you think Cathay will be more like Empire or Dwarfs? I think both. I think one thing that people don't kind of consider when it comes to the lore of Cathay, they've been separated from all of the other races for, time immemorial, whatever the hell. So these people have had to develop gunpowder. They've had to develop all these things over all this time. So you have got like a faction that seems to have a lot of answers to a lot of things because they've had to have those answers. So we're going to find out, of course, I think the next page works for EU. Here you go. We're going to find out what that really means, hopefully, when it comes to the roster reveal, because there's got to be shortcomings, and we don't know what those are just yet. It might be leadership-based. It might be unit card-based and not actual unit-based, right? Like, they might go, oh, well, they don't really have really good this. Like, we don't know yet. Rewinger, thank you very much, man. 400 total Norwegian kronu from Webringer today. Thank you very much, brother. Always being generous. Always appreciate it, my guy. How many race packs do you think we will get during Warhammer 3's life cycle? I think 2 for sure. 3, hopefully. 4 if we're lucky. Scarcio said, it will be interesting to see how the dragon's use of magic differs from the Slan elf style of magic. I just think it's going to be more more lores. I don't think that they're going to have, because there's no way to determine relative power scale of casting in Total War. It's just going to be another lore magic. The only way we know that like a caster is stronger than another caster is, do they have access to Arcane Conduit? Do they have access to Greater Arcane Conduit? Those are the two questions you ask. But a Slann Mage Priest casting Net of Amantok, Teclis casting Net of Amantok, and a Light Wizard casting Net of Amantok, all cast it at the exact same ability. I guess you could make the argument in campaign they could have different levels poured into it, and that could reduce its Winds of Magic cost or its miscast chance, but for the most part, its effectiveness is the exact same. And it was like that on tabletop. It was just that the higher level mages had access to more spells at a given time, versus the lower level ones did not. Level 1 mage had access to 1 spell. Level 5 mage, which Teclis was, had access to 5 spells. That was a lot to say in one go. Any more questions, my bros? Ask away. Did I make it sound like the stream was over? My bad. I just wanted to... It sounded like some people were leaving, so I was like, oh, well, before you leave, thank you. What's about the Nexus link, my bro? How can I help you, Glam? Oh. How many lores will be available during release? So it looks like we're going to have 2 from Kislev, 2 from Cathay, so that's 4. Plus 1, it looks like, from each one of the Chaos Demons. So that's another 4. And then maybe 2 from the pre-order bonus, if not just 1. So I would say anywhere from 8 to 10. Do you think we'll get another Skaven DLC? Absolutely. Thankful. 100%. 100%. What are your hopes for the combined map? I hope they make it fleshed out and not super compressed. It depends on how far east they go, Larry. Because there's a lot of land to cover. So they're going to have to condense the Darklands and the Mountains of Morn to then get portions of Cathay in. So the 3 map is going to be... It's going to have a squish. Do you think those war balloons would shoot rockets? I'd be down with it. Do you think that there's a chance we'll get a 5th kid in Wei Jin that functions as a regent since the parents are in the Celestial City? Yeah, I mean, the 4 symbols mythology has a 5th symbol, the golden symbol, or the white symbol. Golden symbol? God. Golden symbol? White symbol? Yellow symbol. Yellow. And that's centrally located. And I've assumed that central location would be the Golden Dragon Emperor, but Celestial Dragon Emperor, but it could also easily be a 5th child. Since when will Khorne get a Wind of Magic? His Wind of Magic is Blood Den, Morris, and the way to get that Wind of Magic is by axe. Do you think there'll be any new dwarf factions or dwarf holds in Warhammer 3? Yeah, absolutely. There are dwarf presences in the Mountains of Morn, the northeastern portion. They used to do a bunch of expeditions out there because there was tons of magic. I mean, not magic, gold. Will Tzeentch Lord of Change be able to pick which spell lore they'll have along with their own lore, i.e. dual spell lores? I don't know, SSMCS. It's a good question because it's frustrating when you've got... Sorry. A character that can access all these lores and doesn't have access to those lores. Slann Mage Priest. High Elf. So it's interesting that they don't do that right out the gate. So I could see that Tzeentch Greater Demons have... You can choose which lore to give them. I think, just like in tabletop, right? If you jumped into a tabletop battle, you designated the lore you chose from before you started the battle. So I could see it being like that, just like the way it is in 2, where you get a High Elf Archmage of Fire, because that's the lore you've chosen for that character. Might be more like that. In case Sigval goes to Slaanesh, who do you think to replace him? No, I think they would... I think Bortukali, for Slaanesh, it's going to be a demon lord. It would be like the Mask or Inkari. It would not be Sigvald. I think that we'll probably see DLC packs for mortal lords for all of the demons, though. What do you think would be a good addition to the overall chaos mechanic to keep on the campaign map instead of just getting wiped in 5 to 10 turns? What do you mean by that, Larry? Pell, I think we'll get more DLC in 3 than we would in 2, because we have 0 restrictions in Game 3, right? It's just balls to the wall, let's go out and on everything. It'd be hilarious if the Monkey King started in Wei Jin. Yeah, and he is the 5th element. He's the yellow Earth Dragon. You want to see a lot of lore packs like we did in Warhammer 2 as opposed to more race packs. You know, I don't want to see race packs for race packs' sake. I want to see more... I've kind of made this claim before, but I'd like to see... This cool little brush. I'm just going to brush it all over the place. I want to see more lord packs that are not unit and opposition face, right? Like every single lord pack is antagonistic. There's one side versus one side. The blank and the blank. I just want to see a lord pack that's like, I would pay $5 for like 6 legendary lords, something like that. Like, hey, here's the lords we're going to add. They're going to have all the same kind of style of a lord pack DLC. It's just lords though. So you're going to get custom campaign mechanic. You're going to get a brand new model. It's going to have new cool mechanics and fun stuff, but it's just going to be a bunch of lords. Like, hey, this is a lord pack for elves. So you're going to get Aislinn, the sea captain. You're going to get, what's his name? Shadowblade, the assassin for the dark elves. And then you'll get, who's that wood elf that is just like a wood elf lord? I can't think of off the top of my head. Like something like that, where it's thematic. Hey, here's a dwarf DLC, and it adds, well, Thoric Ironbrow's now in the game, but just dwarf characters, or an Order Lord DLC where it adds a dwarf, an Empire hero, and an elf hero. And I want Erloth, thank you. And I want more legendary heroes. Legendary heroes are really cool. I think they add a lot of fun to the game. But I was thinking the Mortal Lords, I mean, Sigvald is the adopted son of Slaanesh, so I wouldn't mind seeing him move to that faction. I think he would be. I think he definitely would be. Make them bigger threats, something that you want to keep in your mind that you need to prep for. I was thinking that ruins created by Chaos Gods would spawn out AI armies. Well, yeah, and actually, Larry, that's something I've speculated before, but I'd really like to see the ruination mechanic for Chaos to kind of come out in the same way that it has for Tarox, where you can't just keep settling the places that have been destroyed by Chaos. You kind of have to go through a process. I think that'd be a little bit more fun. Like the longer it's been in Chaos control, the more hard attrition you take getting there, because you have to fight waves of mutants that have been mutated by the Chaos corruption in the area as your army moves towards like Erengrad to liberate it and free it. But you then have to fight like a growing garrison of just mutants and demons. That would be cool. Or just warriors that have just decided to move in that location, which becomes, for you, conversely, as the Chaos Force, the longer it's been Chaos corrupted, the more maybe casualty replenishment rate, because there's forces in that area that will now join yours, or other things that make it so that if you've held a location, you don't need to directly build on it. It will naturally become more and more beneficial to you over time. I think that would be really cool if Chaos Corruption had boons for Chaos and antithesis for non-Chaos. Do you think that Khorne will have a chance against seemingly more well-rounded faction like Cathay is looking to be? Rocky, we don't really know how much of the other... Like, we know the Khorne roster, but we don't know how much of its mortal stuff is going to pull into it. Like, Will we get any Chaos Marauders on horseback on the roster? We don't really know that yet. So I think that once we actually see what its true roster looks like, I bet you it'll have elements of the Mortal faction or the Undivided faction we can pull into it. JJR 52, they're the same gods. What do you think we get anything from Grimgor Ironhide and Cathay? It was said that he went at some point, if I remember correctly. Probably not. I mean, a lot of that stuff too is like, yes, he's gone across the mountains of Morn, to the lands of Cathay, to the streets of Inn, to the swamps of Koresh. Like, I think it's a lot of just sweeping stuff. I mean, by that measure, we would expect Lokir Felhard in, because that's where he got his red blades, right? From the statue there. Slaughter Brutes, yeah. I just think that we're going to get a lot of coloring of all of the god-specific factions with parts of the Undivided faction. And I think the Undivided faction is going to get colored more so with all of the gods units. And it's probably going to be some sort of campaign mechanic, very similar to where it is with Norska, right? Okay, dedicate X amount of stuff to this god. That gets you the ability to, like a blessed spawning. You can make 2 units of Khorne champions or 2 units of blood letters, something like that. I could see it being like that for Undivided on the campaign map. And maybe that's where the Demon Prince is, right? The Demon Prince is only in the Undivided campaign. If you want to play the Mono Gods, you play as that legendary lord. But the Undivided, you answer to Bellacord and you're a Demon Prince, and this is how you become more and more of an ascended Demon Prince of the sorts. Will the chances of Warhammer 3 Mortal Empires map being a globe? I don't know. That's pretty spicy though. Probably not. Because Total War's never been able to pull something off like that. How big can So I call Mortal Empires the combined map for 2. I think for 3 it'll be called Immortal Empires. Because they alluded to it being called something different in like the Warhammer 2 life cycle, in the very beginning in its original blog. So I think Immortal Empires will span all the way over to Cathay. Yes, it is, JJR. Do you think the Pure race will make it in Warhammer 2? I hope so, Darth. And I hope there isn't like a huge issue with it too, like there was last time. Larry, what the fuck? Here's Larry's question. What's the chances we get a Kyle and Karen DLC for the Empire, finally uniting East and West to save the world? Surfboard and skateboards clashing with hooves of twisted flesh. Kwanzaa, dude! Like, what the hell, man? I think they did actually, Glam. I think they might have said it's specific to Game 3. Were you trying to make a Surf Ninjas reference? Were you trying to do that, dude? There might be SCMS. They might just, oh, here's a little arrow. You go here and you pop up on the other side of the map. Because that's what they've done in like Empire Total War, right? You went all the western, north or southwestern portion of the map. Oh, boom! You went to this like the trade route in between, and then you went to the New World. That's how they did Empire, at least. Oops. That's for Mythos DLC. I haven't changed that. It's supposed to say Warhammer 3. Whoopsies. Alright guys, my voice is shot. I'm having trouble. So I'm going to roll the credits. Let me give some thank yous out to people that give donations here today because there are a lot of them. It tells me that $182 in donations were done today. So thank you guys very, very, very much. Like, that is huge. I cannot tell you how huge that is. Like, it's always like super generous that you get when you guys do this, and I'm super appreciative. And it's like nothing I ever thought would happen, right? You do this stuff, and people go, yeah, here's donate, do this stuff for you. It's like, oh shit, thank you so much. And you watch someone like Dr. Disrespect, and it's like $4,000 donation. He's like, cool, thanks, Chip. I'm like, fuck, what? That's insane. Like it's wild to me. So thank you guys very, very much. I really appreciate it. Should we pre-order? Andy, I can't give you that information. I worked for GameStop for 3 or 4 years. I see no vilification in pre-ordering something you are going to purchase anyway. I have never pre-ordered something that I did not intend to buy. If I don't buy it, if I'm not going to buy it, I don't pre-order it. If I decide to wait until like, oh, you know, Ghost of Tsushima is a really good point. Ghost of Tsushima, I was kind of stoked on it. It looked pretty cool. I didn't pre-order it. Game came out, saw some footage, looked pretty goddamn awesome. I bought it. What's a game that I pre-ordered? Fuck, man, like, I can't remember a game I pre-ordered recently. Look at my library of like games that I have. I'm like, what is a game I pre-ordered recently? Oh, no, I did not do that. You know, Doom is a good one. Like I pre-ordered Doom because I knew I was gonna play the shit out of it. Cyberpunk, we all pre-ordered that, right? Elder Scrolls. I mean, there are games that I just know I'm gonna get, so I pre-order it. That's another go. Assassin's Creed. Yeah, like I pre-ordered Valhalla because I knew I was gonna play the tits off of it. So if you're not gonna play it, don't pre-order it. If you don't know if you're gonna play it, don't pre-order it. Wait until it comes out if you're on the fence. Only pre-order something that you know you're going to get. People are like, oh, pre-ordering, that's like giving them your money ahead of time. You're going to give them your money anyway. Who cares? Like, you're not going to save money by waiting for the game to come out. If you've got the money and you want to do it, then just do it. There's a weird, like, pre-order. Who pre-orders? Fuck, man, I did. I don't care. Like, I used to work for a company where pre-ordering is a big part of its drive and its business, right? And that's because the way GameStop used to work, they're not a big box store. Even though they have tons of outlets, they run like franchises. And your allotment, your supply of the game on launch day was dependent upon your pre-orders. If you had, well, let's also make the distinction. If it was Call of Duty, you're going to get a shit ton of Call of Duties. They know that people don't pre-order Call of Duty all the time. But let's even just take a game like Total War Warhammer. It's a popular game. Shogun, Total War Shogun is a popular game. I was there when that launched in stores. And people came in and wanted to buy it, but we didn't have enough copies because not a lot of people pre-ordered it because they didn't think to pre-order it. It was kind of that end of buying physical and buying digital. It's that very end of that for PC games. So a lot of the time, pre-orders, when it comes to a physical pre-order in a store, that is the determining factor whether or not they get enough product to sell the game after the fact. It's like I've had plenty of games where they came in, customers like, I want this game. I'm like, did you pre-order it? They're like, no, like then I can't sell it to you. Our rule was you had to wait 48 hours until after the game's launch in order to sell pre-ordered copies. And if someone came in and said, hey, where's my pre-ordered copy? We would just get them one. And like we'd find one in the district and say like, hey, can you come back in an hour? I'll go drive to another store and get it for you. But pre-ordering is not this bad fucking thing that so many people think. And I think it's so stupid to be like, oh, pre-ordering, that's bad. Like you're going to buy it. Who cares? You're not going to buy it. Just wait. You'll find out when you find out. Like if you're on the fence, wait till reviews come out, wait till there's content about it, and then make the decision. Like, Darth Comrade, thank you very much, man. Last minute $15 dono. I appreciate it, my guy. That puts me at $197.41. Thank you so much, man. I remember I bribed a GameStop buddy to give me a Force Unleashed the day before. Dude, don't ever tell anyone who that guy's name is, because they can still get in trouble for it. I think at this point, statute of limitations, they can't, but like, dude, that they're so gung-ho about that. Like, you don't lose your job. You get fined, first off, and that fine, depending on the state, is huge. It's huge. In California, it's like 12 grand. And on top of it, you then are probably going to get brought to court. I will, Glam. Shaka, bro. See you, bro. You deserve every cent I've ever dropped or anyone else. And I pretty much only dropped dough on one other guy. Thank you very much, Larry. I appreciate that, dude. $10 out of Larry, putting us at 207. Thank you, my guy. I'm going to drink so much tea after this. But let me go through these donations and say thank you to everyone real quick one more time before we close out.
Thank you for the donation.
Oh my god, there's so fucking many. But a huge shout out too to the people who re-upped on their membership. Ross, Travers, Flessin. No, that Francois subscribed. But we have our first donation from Outraged Deer. No, that wasn't the first one. Muramasa was. He did a $25 donation. My things are all messed up. But Outraged Deer, thank you very much for your donations here. Muramasa, I know you did 2 big ones as well. Axios with some donations. Rewinger, another outrage. Falcon, Ollie, Datboy Canman, Mac, Larry McFart, just making it rain the whole entire day. Darth Comrade, thank you gentlemen all very, very much. And I think I missed some. I have some that kind of like tracks all like subscriptions and donations that happen, and it's missing like some of them in here. But guys, thank you so much for donating here today. Thank you so much for watching here today, for sticking apart with all the kind of semi-repeat content we've been doing throughout the week. But there's just been so many lore dumps from Games Workshop and from Creative Assembly, so I wanted to make sure I hit all those. We'll have one more lore video tomorrow from Games Workshop to just kind of talk about what I was talking about with the 4 symbols and the 4 cardinal directions. So if you've already watched the stream, you don't need to watch that video if you don't want. Thank you very much, Darth. I appreciate that, man. Very, very, very much. Warhammer Mario. You son of a bitch, Ryan. It's me, Mario. Let's go to Altdorf. Alright, guys. I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna drink some water and a lot of tea and get my voice back in good working order. But thank you very much for someone donate $2.59. Is that what it is? Yeah, it is $2.59. No, don't do that. But yeah, that would put it at 210. That would put it at 210. I thought, because I was like, no, I'll put it at 209. Don't do it, Travers. But we'll be back here. I think I'm going to start doing some streams of Crusader Kings 3 again. Start doing some historical ones and jump back on that boat here. But I'll be putting up all this on the channel, and I'll put the division of all of the questions so you guys can watch it after the fact if you're just jumping in like you are, Ryan Martinez. But we'll be back here with more streams, more information, more coverage, all the goods, guys. But thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one. Wash your hands. Stay safe. Take care. And we'll be back here with some more stuff to come. Thank you for the live stream. Very interesting. Like your videos. Thank you very much, Ask a Cat. I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. All right, guys. Absolutely Sam Pirate. Oh, 259 from Larry McFart. Dude, it's an even 210 now. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, dude. Just making it rain the whole day. So generous, brother. See you in the next one, guys. Stay safe for the TY for the streams party. Absolutely, Bortu. We'll probably actually cover a 1.63 patch in a stream. I'll play that. I'll test that. But some CK3 stuff probably here soon too. Oh man, that's a plain little beard right there, brother. All right, guys. Have a good one. Take care. Have a good weekend. Stay safe. Wash your hands. All that cool fun action. But take care. Take care. Take care. Take care. Take care. I'm leaving.